Chapter 39. When Wu Yan's hand touched a certain part of the hot spring, it quickly shrunk and turned back into a gem, lying quietly in Wu Yan's hand. Tossing the portable hot spring into the S.P.A.C. ring, Wu Yan sat down on the spot. He picked up a few random rocks and gathered them together. Then, he took out a black circle from the S.P.A.C. ring. Wu Yan placed the circle on the stones. Wu Yan fiddled with the circle for some unknown reason. When Wu Yan was done fiddling with the circle, a fire suddenly lit up from the center of the circle. Wu Yan ignored all of this. He took out a few bottles and jars from the space ring and put them aside. Then he took out a few pieces of meat and a metal handle. He put the metal handle on the meat and put it on the fire to roast. From time to time, he would pick up the bottles and jars beside him and sprinkle them on the meat. Wu Yan roasted the meat in an orderly manner as he opened the system's status option. Character: Wu Yan abilities: Swordsmanship Expert, Cooking Expert, Complete Memory, Chaotic Return to Horizon Dance Equipment, Kusanagi Sword, Rank D, Summon, Misaka Mikoto Equipment Points, 51,000 Item Points, 830000 Ability Points, 81,000 Summoning Points, 11,000 Level, 45 when he saw his own level. Wu Yan couldn't help but be stunned. Then he felt relieved. Wu Yan is a bit surprised to see that he has gained 15 levels in such a short time. But after thinking about it, it's not that strange. That terrifying monster army was completely wiped out by the three of them. With such a terrifying amount of monsters, there were even 10 level 40 monsters and a few hundred level 30 plus monsters. It's reasonable that they could level up to this level. What's more, monsters above level 20 came in heaps. This could be seen from the 830,000 item points that Wu Yan had left after purchasing the portable hot spring, quick healing potions, and clothes. Although level 20 little monsters could not provide Wu Yan with much EXP, and some of them were killed by Chuju, the number was still terrifying. Chuju was only level 18. How many little monsters could she kill? Therefore, they couldn't handle the large quantity. Now that he thought about it, even though he had the cheat that allowed him to level up through battle, after killing so many monsters, he only leveled up by 1 rank according to the Spalier World's calculation system. What a disgrace to the transmigrators. Mikoto's status didn't change much under Wu Yan's status, but character: Misaka Mikoto ability, Electroshock user, LV5, strength, C endurance, C agility, B spirit, A equipment, none level. 69 compared to his previous status, there wasn't much change. He only leveled up by 1, but this one level was not easy to level up. After all, Mikoto couldn't be compared to himself. Among the little monster army, there were a lot of monsters that were higher level than him when he was still level 30. Their EXP to Wu Yan was like fighting above his level. Of course, he gained a lot of EXP. That's why he leveled up so many times. However, there wasn't a single monster that was higher level than Mikoto. The highest level monster was only level 40. Compared to Mikoto, it was much weaker. The amount of EXP Mikoto gained was very little. Even so, the amount of EXP Mikoto gained was still enough to pull him up a level. It wasn't easy. Wu Yan closed the system and began to ponder. Now that I'm level 45, I'm equivalent to a medium tier 5 warrior. It's about time for me to upgrade my equipment and abilities. A sound woke Wu Yan from his thoughts. Wu Yan turned his head and couldn't help but smile. Her eyelids fluttered a few times before she opened her eyes. She covered her mouth with her hand and yawned. Only then did she wake up completely. When she woke up, the first thing she saw was Wu Yan grinning at her while roasting some unknown meat in front of a bonfire that she didn't know when he started. "You're awake?" Wu Yan waved at Mikoto with his empty hand. His other hand was still twirling the metal handle in his hand. It seems that distracting his attention won't affect his cooking. Mikoto was shocked. She quickly got up and looked around. When she saw that the corpses on the ground had disappeared, she let out a sigh of relief. If she really had to sleep next to a corpse, even if it wasn't a human corpse, she wouldn't be able to bear it. Every time she thought of that bloody scene, Mikoto quickly shook her head. Even though she's feeling a lot better now, she still felt a bit uneasy in her heart. Wu Yin, who was watching Mikoto from start to finish, couldn't help but sigh. Of course, he knew that Mikoto still hasn't completely accepted the fact that her hands were stained with blood, even if she was prepared. Rolling his eyes, Wu Yin suddenly laughed out of the blue. He laughed out of the blue. Hearing Wu Yan's strange laughter, Mikoto frowned. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt a wave of unhappiness. Even her other emotions were completely suppressed by this unhappiness. "Why are you laughing so hard?" Mikoto glared at Wu Yin. "Nope." Wu Yin stopped laughing, but he didn't stop smiling. That hippopotamus face of his only made Mikoto even more annoyed. Beep, 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 beep. A burst of electric sound started, indicating that the owner is very unhappy and the consequences are very serious. Wu Yan's expression stiffened. He timidly glanced at the electric current on Mikoto's body. In the end, he steeled his heart and looked at Mikoto without moving his eyes. His expression changed again into an expression of reminiscence. Wu Yan's wretched expression finally made Mikoto realize that something was wrong. She looked at herself, and instantly her eyes widened. Her eyes were blank and her mouth was wide open. She didn't even release the electric current. Snow-white short-sleeved shirt and an ordinary gray skirt. It was a very ordinary and simple outfit. But it was this outfit that made Mikoto's expression look like she's seen a ghost. My clothes were changed. Mikoto now understood what happened. But it wasn't her who changed the clothes, and Chuju was still sleeping. So, there's only one answer. WHW. Mikoto's face was blank. She turned to Wu Yin, and her mouth opened and closed. As for why she asked why, it's just that she didn't want to face reality. After seeing the effect he wanted, Wu Yan's smile became even more brilliant. What, why? Her hands slowly pressed on her body like a machine. Mikoto crossed her arms and said blankly, My clothes." Wu Yin stretched out his hand and waved his finger in front of his face. Is there even a need to say it? It's covered in blood. Of course it had to be changed. Beep. The electric arcs that were jumping around restlessly showed that Mikoto's heart wasn't calm at all. She forced a smile on her face and asked, "Then, who was it that changed my clothes? Did you change it when Hinagika woke up?" Mikoto's hopeful eyes stared at him, making him feel a lot of pressure. He's already regretting using such a method to distract Mikoto's attention. Wu Yin stopped smiling. After taking a deep breath, he said confidently, "How is that possible? In this world, only I'm so considerate. So be grateful to me." Mikoto's face became hotter and hotter. At an unimaginable speed, the temperature on her face broke through the limit. Finally, with a bang, a cloud of smoke came out from her head. Her mind went blank. Mikoto's head started shaking uncontrollably from left to right, up and down. Wasn't this reaction a little too exaggerated? Wu Yan's mouth twitched as he watched Mikoto's eyes turn into circles. Her face was red as she shook her head. She's so pure. While Wu Yan was feeling proud, Mikoto suddenly stopped. She lowered her head with a gloomy expression. Beep, beep, beep. A blue light suddenly burst out. Electric arcs crazily flashed on Mikoto's body. With a wicked smile, Mikoto looked at Wu Yan. A chill ran from Wu Yan's spine to his head. Wu Yan's body couldn't help but shiver. Looking at Mikoto, who slowly stood up like a thunder god, a big drop of cold sweat slid down Wu Yan's head. Revealing a smile uglier than crying, Wu Yan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. "Cold, calm down." "Mikoto, calm down." A devilish voice came out from Mikoto's mouth. "What last wish do you have? Tell me, although I don't know if I'll remember it. But if one day I happen to remember it, I'll consider fulfilling it for you." Wu Yan laughed dryly at Mikoto. "Don't joke around, Mikoto. You see, I'm doing this for your own good. You're a girl. You should be clean. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal." Mikoto's voice rose a little, but it didn't make Wu Yan happy. Instead, it made him feel even more despair. "So that's how it is. To you, it's not a big deal. If that's the case." Blushing, Mikoto glared at Wu Yan and shouted, "No need for last words. Mikoto, if I die, you'll die too." Wu Yan let out his last cry. "Die!" Beep, beep, beep. As soon as Hinagika woke up, she was startled by the terrible sound, thinking it was a demon attacking. She jumped up and summoned Sakura in her hand, looking ahead vigilantly. When she saw the situation clearly, her vigilant expression froze. Mikoto's face was blood red. Smoke was coming out of her head from time to time. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and stared fiercely at the mess on the ground. On the ground, Yin was lying there. Unlike Mikoto's red face, his face was black, and so was his body. Smoke was coming out of his mouth, and he kept spitting it out. What's going on? Chuju looked at the crime scene in shock. She couldn't react at all. Mikoto looked at Chuju, who was still in shock. Tears welled up in her eyes. She covered her face and lowered her head. How was she supposed to say this? Scratching her head in confusion, Chuju looked at Mikoto, who was blushing to the point that smoke was coming out of her face. She felt a little strange, but she couldn't figure out what was so strange about it. Rolling her eyes helplessly, Chuju walked towards the two. But as soon as she took a step, Chuju froze. Why did she feel a little cold down there? Reaching out her hand, Chuju froze. She could feel that the underwear she was wearing was different from before. The edge of the underwear that reached her legs was slanted, and it was quite slanted. Her underwear was gone. Combined with Mikoto's performance and Wu Yan's pitiful state, coupled with her slightly fresh body and wet hair, as well as the fact that she's wearing the same outfit as Mikoto's, a bad idea formed in her mind. Chuju's face started to turn red. Looking at Mikoto, Chuju whispered, "Mikoto, could it be that our clothes and the blood on our bodies are—" Hearing Chuju's voice, Mikoto didn't put down her hand. Instead, she opened her fingers, revealing two watery eyes. Looking at Wu Yan on the ground, she wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She nodded her head. After Mikoto nodded, Chuju's face turned even redder than her hair. Her heart was burning with anger. She strode in front of Wu Yan and gave him a vicious slap. Slap! Ah! Chapter 40. It's probably nighttime. As for why I added probably, it needs to be explained. Because in the cave, Wu Yan and the other two couldn't accurately judge the time, and they couldn't bring their phones with them. So I added probably it's still the same fire, the same barbecued meat, and Wu Yan is still roasting it. The only difference is that this time, Wu Yan has a red palm print on his left cheek, and his skin is a bit darker. The two girls are now awake, sitting next to the fire. Their faces are red, and they're glaring at Wu Yan. After roasting the meat, Wu Yan lifted the meat in his hand and handed it to Mikoto and Chuju. Take it. Ouch. Halfway through, Wu Yan felt the red palm print on his face burning with pain. His mouth twitching, Wu Yan wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Even though he knew that the two girls would teach him a lesson when they wake up, he didn't expect the lesson to be so deep. It can only be said that the lack of awareness before transmigrating killed him. Because in Wu Yan's subconscious mind, even if he saw the two girls naked, they can't do anything to him, right? Could it be that he could be so ruthless? Unfortunately, he had already forgotten that this is no longer the harmonious society that he once lived in. The girls from the 2D world are not the kind of people who would show mercy to others, but Wu Yan could be proud that he saw the two girls naked. Mikoto glared at Wu Yan fiercely before taking the barbecued meat from Wu Yan's hand. Wu Yan laughed foolishly and handed it to Chuju. She snatched it, snorted, and threw it to the back of his head. Clapping his hands in dissatisfaction, Wu Yan mumbled, "What? It's not like I haven't seen it before." Blushing again, Chuju immediately turned her head, gritted her teeth, and glared at Wu Yan. She wanted to eat him alive. Shrinking his head, Wu Yan quickly raised his hands, indicating that he surrendered. When Chuju no longer wanted to look at him, Wu Yan let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was even more determined in his heart. Next time, he would definitely summon a soft girl. At the same time, Mikoto, who was sitting there chewing on a piece of barbecued meat, couldn't help but look at the meat in her hand with surprise. This is a little too delicious. The eyes of a certain super electromagnetic gun, who had never eaten Wu Yan's dishes, immediately lit up. She chewed even faster. As for the previous uncoordinated feeling, it was thrown to the back of her mind. As for why there was a feeling of disharmony, it was very simple. It was because the super electromagnetic gun's underwear, which was the safety pants, had been thrown away by Wu Yin, just like Chuju. Although the fact that they like to wear safety pants is their cute point, compared to the cute underwear, this point can be discarded. Moreover, Mikoto and Chuju already have a lot of cute points on them. Chuju's situation was similar to Mikoto's. Although she had already tried Wu Yan's dishes, she still couldn't stop herself from eating them every time. Well, who told these two girls to not get fat no matter how much they eat? Let them be. Helplessly shaking his head, Wu Yin finished the barbecued meat in a few bites. After filling his stomach, Wu Yin opened the system list and clicked on the equipment option. As of now, Wu Yin is already level 45, which is the 5th step of the Spalier world. Although the Kusanagi sword has only accompanied him for 4 months, it's time to change it. The current Kusanagi sword can no longer keep up with Wu Yan's needs. If Wu Yan's idea was heard by the warriors in the Spalier world, they would definitely spit at him to death. One must know that common armaments are the dream equipment of warriors and mages below the 7th step. Armaments are extremely precious in the Spalier world. Even the lowest common armaments can only be worn by warriors or mages with good conditions. There are 2 reasons for good conditions. One is family background, and the other is strength. Having a good family background is easy to understand. If you have a good father, and your father is very rich, he will naturally prepare a common armament for you. Of course, it has to be a big family. Even if it's not at the level of a lorry family, it has to be at least a big family in the area. Having good strength is even easier to understand. With strength, do you have to be afraid of not having enough money? Go into the giant beast forest and hunt high-level demonic beasts for 10 days to half a month. The money you can get from that would be enough to buy a mass armament. As for how strong you need to be, it's not much different from Wu Yan's current strength, around Tier 5. A Tier 5 warrior or magician would only be able to equip a common armament at this point in time. Yet, Wu Yan thinks that common armaments can't keep up with his needs? How can those warriors and mages below the 5th step who don't have a good family background and who still have iron armaments endure this? Well, with the system, this heaven-defying thing, Wu Yan could be considered to have a good family background, so he can't be counted. And now, Wu Yan wants to change his equipment. Naturally, he won't be interested in common armaments anymore. What he wants to change is a C-rank equipment, which is a rare armament. In the Spalier world, rare armaments can only be worn by those above the 7th step. Also, only those with good family background can have one, such as Fei Fei. Of course, people like Lulu are the real good family background. She is only at the 4th step, and she already has a rare armament. But she is the only daughter of the first family of the Ailu Empire, one of the 3 big empires. If you compare yourself to her, you will only be angered to death. Some of the poorer 7th-step warriors and mages may not even have a rare armament. This is the main reason why Wu Yin didn't exchange for a rare armament in the Spalier world, even though he had enough equipment points. In the Spalier world, robbing people and robbing the rich to help the poor is not illegal. But now it's different. Even though he is only at the 5th step and can't compare to his 7th step, he has Mikoto, who is at the peak of the 7th step. What is there to be afraid of? As for those 8th and 8th-step warriors and mages, if they don't have a rare armament, they will be looked down upon by others. As for the 9th step, there is no need to worry. They will also look down on you with 1 or 2 rare armaments. At this level, who doesn't have a family background? 9th step warriors use gold armaments. Moreover, the 9th step is a rare existence. Wu Yin doesn't even know if he can meet one. Even if Wu Yin heard about it, he only heard from Fei Fei that the previous head of her family, which is Lulu's grandfather, was a 9th step warrior. The number 1 family in an empire only has 1 Tier 9 fighter. Even though he doesn't know how many Tier 9 fighters there are in Silveria, there are less than 5 Tier 10 demigods in Silveria. How many Tier 9 fighters could there be in Silveria that are a tier lower than a Tier 9 fighter? So, now is the time to exchange for a rare armament. Even Lulu, that half-natural girl, has a rare armament. If he doesn't have one, wouldn't that be embarrassing? Under the watchful eyes of the 2 girls who are munching on their food, Wu Yin flipped through his system inventory and started looking for equipment. D-tier equipment is automatically ignored since he doesn't need them anymore. He's mainly looking for C-tier equipment. As for B-tier equipment, sorry, he's embarrassingly short on funds. With Kendo Mastery and Chaotic Return to Horizon Dance, Wu Yin naturally looked for sword-type equipment. Katanas like the Kusanagi sword are also included. After looking for few times, Wu Yin's eyes lit up and stared at one of the equipment. Shana of the Nippon Den. See grade from the Blazing Eyes Shana. The Blazing Eyes Crusader, Shana's Noble Phantasm points. 20,000 equipment points. This is it, not for anything else, just because it is Shana's weapon. That is, Wu Yin tapped on the list, and a simple katana and a scabbard appeared in his hand. A mysterious aura surrounded the sword, attracting the attention of Mikoto and Chuju. The hilt of the sword was black, but the end of the hilt was golden. The black guard was a square with 4 corners missing, and the middle was empty, connecting the hilt and the blade. The blade was bright silver, and in terms of color, it was much brighter than the Kusanagi no Tsurugi sword. As for the scabbard in Wu Yin's other hand, it is completely black. Wu Yin nodded with satisfaction. Wu Yin is quite familiar with this katana that can be turned into a sword or a sword. The blade is relatively small, so is easy to control. Although it is not easy to hit, it is light and convenient. Tightening his grip on the sword, he swung it with all his might. The bright silver blade flashed with white light in the air. He waved it around a bit before sheathing it back into its scabbard. Did you get a new weapon? Chuju curiously looked at Wu Yan's katana. After all, she is also a good swordsman, so she is quite fond of this kind of sword. Well, after today's battle, my strength has increased a lot, so it is inevitable to exchange for a more powerful weapon. Wu Yin said to Chuju after putting the katana into the interspatial ring. Mikoto nodded and said, "Then you don't want to exchange for some defensive equipment?" Wu Yin was surprised. After thinking for a while, he opened the system list and looked at it. Mikoto's words are not without reason. In today's battle against the army of monsters, if he had a decent defensive equipment, he would have saved a lot of effort. He could also extend the use of Senzabine, so he would not have to risk his life. Of course, Wu Yin does not like to wear armor. Not only is it heavy, it is also not in line with his concept. So Wu Yin looked at the system list with a nonchalant attitude. But then again, he really did find a suitable one. Mental Dragon Armor. Rank C, formless, weightless, exists in the form of a concept. When the wearer is attacked, a formless dragon-shaped armor will burst out. Completely immune to attacks below level 50, weakens attacks below level 60. Equipment points, 30,000. Wu Yin was delighted. Formless? Weightless? That's good. Now I don't have to carry a piece of armor everywhere, and I don't have to worry about its weight. Wu Yin immediately took it off. A ray of light shot out from the system list and shot into Wu Yin's forehead. At the same time, Wu Yin felt a floating dragon-shaped armor in his mind. Is the mental dragon armor. It usually stays here. Only when Wu Yin is attacked will it appear and block the damage for Wu Yin. After exchanging for 2 rank C equipment, Wu Yin only has 1,000 points left. Wu Yin's mood is very good. Only a little bit of regret. Wu Yin said with regret, "Mikoto, if only I still have some equipment points. I'll help you exchange for 1 too." Mikoto waved her hand casually. "No need. I don't need any equipment. Esper power is enough." "That won't do," Wu Yin said with dissatisfaction. "What if we go to the Spalier world and meet the real strong?" Chuju raised her head when she heard this. "Yin, are you guys going to leave this world?" Wu Yin and Mikoto both choked on their saliva. Wu Yin looked at Chuju with annoyance. "What do you mean we're going to leave this world? We're not dead yet." "You know that's not what I mean." Chuju shouted excitedly. Wu Yin smiled and looked at Chuju. He half-jokingly said, "Don't worry. When we get there, I'll summon you. Of course, when that time comes, our lives will be fused together. If I die, you won't be able to live." Hearing this, Hinagika finally smiled happily. "Then, let me protect you." Wu Yin blanked out for a bit before he became speechless. "Is this a declaration to raise a gigolo? Please give me an explosion." Votes. Rewards. Click. Collection. Comment. Urgent, 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 urgent. LT slash AGT. LT. AGT. LT slash AGT. Chapter 41. Night. Makoto and Chuju were already asleep. Although the two girls had slept for quite some time, their mental exhaustion still hadn't fully recovered. After all, the two girls were only 14 or 15 years old. They had just gone through a cruel slaughter. Even with Wu Yan's antics, it wasn't easy for them to relax. Wu Yan sat alone beside the fire. He was in charge of keeping watch. No one knew if there would be another demon attack in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep. Even if it wasn't on the same scale as before, he couldn't be careless. Thus, as a man, Wu Yan consciously accepted the task of keeping watch. It's definitely going to be boring, but looking at the sleeping posture of the two cute things, it's not like he can't get through it. Wu Yan is an otaku. Staying up late is a common occurrence. This place was very wide. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to accommodate such a terrifying demon army. However, the only real passage, other than the slide that Wu Yan's group slid down, was the passage directly opposite of Wu Yan. Of course, Wu Yan wouldn't let his guard down in other places. The heavenly jade should be right in front of him, Wu Yan thought to himself as he looked at the seemingly endless passageway. As long as he obtained the heavenly jade and exchanged it for the other half of the mysterious crystal from the Heron Palace, he and Makoto would leave this world. At that time, he would summon Chuju over. This world wouldn't have much to do with Wu Yan anymore. Although before he transmigrated, Wu Yan was also very fond of Butler Whirlwind's world. However, that didn't mean that Wu Yan would be satisfied. He still remembered the familiar dungeons on the system's list. Those were all his dreams. Now that he had the chance to realize them, how could Wu Yan be satisfied if he didn't go through all of these places? Perhaps Wu Yan would bring Chuju back in the future. However, it was impossible for him to stop here. Butler Whirlwind was just the first stop. Your so-called night watch is just standing here in a daze. Just as Wu Yan's thoughts were about to drift away, a voice saved him. When Wu Yan looked up, Sis Cannon was looking down at him with dissatisfaction. "Aren't you asleep? Why are you up?" Wu Yan scratched his head awkwardly. He had indeed been distracted just now. He hadn't even noticed that Sis Cannon had gotten up and approached him. He had neglected his duty. "Yeah, I suddenly woke up. Maybe it's because I couldn't sleep anymore. Maybe it's because I just slept," Makoto said casually as she sat across from Wu Yan. "Well, that's right. She's more like Sis Cannon when she's full of energy," Wu Yan said without any hesitation. Makoto glared at Wu Yan. "What do you mean? Are you saying that I don't look like a girl? Also, what's up with Sis Cannon? Are you making fun of me?" Chuckling dryly, Wu Yan reached out his finger and pressed it against his cheek. "Don't be angry, girl. I'll give you a smile. Don't act cute in front of me. Disgusting." Makoto resisted the urge to punch Wu Yan's face. If Chuju wasn't still asleep, she would have flirted with him. Smiling at Makoto, Wu Yan let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Makoto had fully recovered. He was afraid that Makoto would be stubborn because of this. Luckily, it seemed that the sacrifice from before wasn't in vain. "Hey, don't change the topic. What's up with Sis Cannon?" Seeing Wu Yan laughing like an idiot, Makoto was unhappy again. Wu Yan calling her Sis Cannon felt like an insult to her. "Mama," scratching his face, Wu Yan said, "Makoto, aren't you a super railgun? Calling you Sis Cannon is a form of respect." Makoto stared straight at Wu Yan's face. "Why do I feel like that's not the case? Don't mind the details. Those who care about details are all nine." "How can I not mind?" Makoto retorted loudly. "Why are you calling me sis? You're much older than me, you uncle." "An uncle?" Faced with Sis Cannon, who evolved a venomous tongue, Wu Yan felt like he was struck by lightning. He was completely stunned. "I'm only 20 years old. I'm not an uncle. You half lowly." Wu Yan screamed in his heart. But if he really screamed, he wouldn't be far from death. This made Wu Yan feel extremely aggrieved. Seeing Wu Yan's expression, Makoto smiled and looked at the bonfire in front of her. Gradually, she lost her focus. Wu Yan, who recovered at an unknown time. For some reason, he couldn't help but want to talk to her when he saw her like this. "What's wrong? Are you homesick?" Wu Yan asked softly. Makoto nodded blankly and then shook her head. This made Wu Yin confused. Perhaps Makoto sensed Wu Yan's confusion. She glanced at him and said, "Actually, I'm not homesick. Although I'm not dissatisfied with my previous life, living in Academy City feels a little normal. Every day, I go to school, leave school, play video games. Maybe it was because of her life fusion with Wu Yin, or because she had no one to talk to, Makoto felt like she had to get it off her chest. And in this world, there are a lot of exciting things. There are exorcists and monsters." When she mentioned monsters, Makoto's expression was a little unnatural. She was probably thinking about the previous battle. But soon, Makoto continued, "But now I miss Academy City. I miss Mom and Dad, and I miss my junior." Although that junior is a little abnormal. Looks like Makoto was harmed by that Yuri girl Shiroi, Kuriko, so you're saying that you're conflicted. You want to go home, but you also want to stay here and look for excitement. Wu Yin said bluntly. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. As expected of Sis Cannon, she loved excitement. No wonder she wanted to flirt with those delinquents every day. Although it's similar to what you said, why do I feel uncomfortable hearing it from you? With your temper, the only time you feel comfortable is when you electrocute people. Wu Yin mumbled softly. What did you say? Nothing. Wu Yin shook his head after being glared at by Makoto. Makoto pouted unhappily and turned her head away. Out of sight, out of mind. Was life in Academy City normal? Wu Yin sighed in his heart. He didn't know how to tell Makoto about that. About the Misaka sisters. The system already said that if the character Wu Yin summons didn't enter the world of that character, then the character he summons will be the same as the character from the day before the start of the storyline. Although he didn't know if the day before the storyline began was the time in the Super Railgun or the time in the Forbidden World, Makoto didn't know about the existence of the Misaka sisters. It could be seen from the original novel that this kind-hearted girl regarded the Misaka sisters as important. Otherwise, she would not be willing to sacrifice her life for the sake of ending the superpower project. But now Makoto was summoned by him. Even if the time in the Forbidden World was still frozen, Misaka's sister had already been born. How many of the Misaka sisters died on the day before the storyline began? Even Wu Yin didn't know. If Makoto knew about this, she'd be worried sick. This girl who blamed Misaka's sister's fate on herself. But if he didn't tell her, then it would be even more cruel. After all, the Misaka sisters were Makoto's sisters. How should he put it? Wu Yan's face started to change. After some hesitation, Wu Yin said in a low voice, "Makoto." She turned around and looked at Wu Yin. Seeing his hesitant face, Makoto was confused. "What?" Sighing, he looked at her with a straight face and said in a serious tone, What if Academy City isn't as beautiful as you think it is? What would you do?" "Not as beautiful as I imagined it to be." Makoto's face froze when she heard Wu Yan's what if. As a LVL5, she had extraordinary computing power. Her IQ was definitely higher than Wu Yan's. Now that Wu Yin said something like, "What if?" Makoto didn't believe him. Makoto frowned. "Yin, don't you know something? Don't try to brush me off." Before Wu Yin could answer, Makoto stopped him. "I know. As my summoner with such a magical system, you must know a lot of things. Otherwise, you wouldn't summon someone you don't know for no reason. You must know me very well. That's why you summon me, right?" Wu Yin flinched for a bit before replying. "That's not necessarily true. At the time, I wanted someone to protect Hinajuku. That's why I chose to summon a character. That wasn't a lie. No matter how much Wu Yin liked 2D characters, Wu Yin summoned someone to protect Chuju. Of course, liking Sis Cannon was also a part of the reason." Makoto didn't believe Wu Yin at all. She said, "If you had told me this reason before, I might have believed you. But after this period of time, Yin, I realized that every word and every action you took with me was targeted. I don't believe that you can understand a newly summoned character to this extent. Or maybe it's the system that sent me your information, just like how you had my information back then." Makoto laughed at Wu Yan's words. She said, "After your explanation, I'm even more certain that you already knew a lot about me before you summoned me." Wu Yan looked at Makoto blankly. He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "You're trying to trick me. Tell me, Yin." Makoto widened her tea-colored eyes and said sternly, "Why did you say that Academy City isn't that great?" Wu Yin felt a headache coming on. Under Makoto's watchful gaze, he fell silent for a moment before he slowly spilled the beans. About the clones, the Misaka sisters, Accelerator, and the Aptitude Project. As Wu Yin spoke, Makoto's face turned green. Her eyes were filled with anger. When Wu Yin talked about the Aptitude Project, Makoto's face turned pale. When Wu Yin finished, Makoto lowered her head. "It's all my fault." Makoto looked up at the ceiling. Her eyes were empty. "I knew it would be like this." Wu Yin stood up abruptly and walked to Makoto's side. Then, he pulled her into his arms. Makoto was shocked and quickly regained her senses. She wanted to struggle, but Wu Yan's voice slowly entered her ears. Makoto couldn't help but stop. "There's nothing wrong with being kind, Makoto. You have to face reality. Don't worry, right now the time in your world has stopped. The sisters will be fine for the time being. Once we become strong enough to defeat Accelerator, we'll go back and save them." Makoto fell silent after hearing Wu Yan's words, until a certain moment, when he felt the person in his arms nod. Wu Yin smiled. Chapter 42. Holding a piece of meat that Wu Yin just roasted, Chuju slowly chewed on it while looking at Wu Yin and Makoto strangely. Her heart was full of doubts. Ever since she woke up, Chuju felt that the atmosphere between the two was a little different. Chuju didn't see anything wrong with Wu Yan's words. When it's time to roast meat, he'll roast meat. When he speaks, he's still so casual. But Makoto's behavior is really strange. Every time Wu Yin looks at Makoto, it wouldn't take more than 2 seconds for Makoto to turn her head away, not daring to look at Wu Yin. Whenever Wu Yin turns his head away to do something else, Makoto would sneak a peek at him, and in less than 2 seconds, she would shake her head like crazy and look away. Although she said she looked away, it didn't take long for her to look at Wu Yin again. Then she looked away and looked at him again. She didn't get tired of repeating the same thing. Such unnatural behavior made Chuju feel like a kitten was scratching her heart. She couldn't wait to ask what happened. After everyone finished eating, Wu Yin pointed at the fire ring and the fire suddenly disappeared. Wu Yin picked up the fire ring and threw it into his space ring. Then he turned to the 2 girls. "All right, let's go. There shouldn't be many monsters left in this place. After all, the number of monsters we killed yesterday wasn't small." Wu Yan's words reminded Makoto and Chuju of the monsters that piled up into a mountain. Both of them nodded solemnly. Seeing the 2 girls' reaction, Wu Yan's expression didn't change, but he was actually very happy. If the 2 girls didn't get used to it, then it would be really bad for the next battle. "There's only one passage here." Wu Yin pointed at the wide road in front of them. "So, we can only go forward. Let's go quickly find that jade of the Heavenly Palace, and then leave this damned place," Makoto said with a little excitement. Not only because they could leave this place after finding the jade of the Heavenly Palace, but more importantly, there must be demons and ghosts ahead, and demons and ghosts meant experience. After Wu Yan's explanation and consolation, Makoto looked like she didn't care about Misaka's sister anymore. But in reality, she had already taken this matter to heart. Even though Wu Yin had said that his world was still in a frozen state, that time had stopped, and that nothing would happen to his sisters, Makoto was still worried. She only wanted to become stronger as soon as possible, to become stronger than Accelerator. That way, she would be able to save her sisters. Of course, being anxious is unavoidable. Wu Yin is already very satisfied. Compared to the original work where Makoto looked helpless and hopeless, the current Makoto's performance is undoubtedly much better. Part of the reason was because time had stopped. Another part was because it wasn't as hopeless as the original. In the original work, Makoto wanted to save her sister, but she couldn't. Even though Makoto was the third and Accelerator was the first, it didn't seem like a big difference, but it was actually wrong. The difference between them was like heaven and earth. In the original, Makoto had a simple fight with Accelerator in order to save one of the Misaka sisters. But under Accelerator's overpowered strength, Makoto lost miserably in his hands. Plus, There were people from the council behind the scenes. Because of this, Mikoto wanted to use the method of suicide to save her sisters. But now it's different. Mikoto, who couldn't beat Accelerator before, has become Wu Yan Summon. As long as there are enough battles, Mikoto will continue to grow stronger until she surpasses Accelerator. As for the Misaka sisters, after Mikoto pushed him away with a red face last night, Wu Yan spent the whole night explaining the inside story to her, including the real purpose of the Misaka sisters being used, Alistair's plan, and the support of the council. This made Mikoto feel a bit dejected. Becoming the enemy of the entire Academy City, the place you've been living in all your life, it's unbearable. Of course, Mikoto has already prepared herself. Even in the original, she had this kind of determination, let alone now. But this also made Mikoto understand that as long as she can defeat Accelerator, at least for a short period of time, the sisters will be fine. Alistair won't let anything go wrong with his plan. This much is certain. As for what to do after defeating Accelerator, Wu Yan assured her that the system will find a way to deal with it. Mikoto was relieved. Without a doubt, compared to the original Mikoto who fought to the end by herself, the current Mikoto has someone whose life is intertwined with hers as her shield. She has someone she can absolutely trust to help her. She's undoubtedly much happier, but still it's good to be strong. Under Mikoto's impatient urging, the three once again embarked on their journey to find the heavenly jade. The environment is the same as before. There are rocks and walls everywhere. There isn't even a drop of water. The three walked on a path that could easily become boring to the eyes, but the vigilance in their hearts didn't decrease at all. Compared to when they first came in, the current Mikoto and Chuju have undoubtedly changed a lot. Yesterday's events are still deeply engraved in their hearts. That kind of battle where it's either you die or I live has toughened up their hearts a lot. But there's still one thing they're not used to. Looking at how careful Mikoto and Chuju are walking with their legs clamped together, Wu Yan was speechless. Wearing safety pants all year round. Now that they've taken it off, their behavior has changed so much. What should he say about them? Mikoto and Chuju are gnashing their teeth in anger. The two of them who are usually carefree decided to wear safety pants because they don't want to worry about anything. Occasionally, they would have to take care of their skirts. For tomboyish girls like them who exercise a lot, it's too tiring. So, they've gotten used to wearing safety pants. Now that they suddenly change, it's really awkward. Plus, they have to guard against the wolf behind them. The two girls knew that once they accidentally exposed themselves, the shameless wolf behind them would definitely continue to admire them openly. However, once the battle started, this kind of thing was unavoidable. There was nothing they could do but swallow their grievances. If Wu Yan knows what they're thinking, he'll definitely laugh and say, "I've seen everything on your body. Do I still need to pay attention to your underwear?" What Mikoto and Chuju don't know is that their bodyguard is currently lying quietly in Wu Yan's interspatial ring. What is shameless? This is shameless. Look, there's light in front. Chuju raised her white cherry and pointed at the road ahead. There's a faint light. It looks like an exit. Wu Yan's face tensed up. He quickly stood in front of Mikoto and Chuju and said to them, "I don't know what's going on in front. Everyone be careful. We can't rule out the possibility that there's a demon in front." Mikoto and Chuju nodded solemnly. They've already mentally prepared themselves after yesterday's battle. Mikoto even secretly calculated the calculation formula of her superpower in her mind. She's prepared to use her superpower at any time to prepare for battle. After all, Wu Yan is the leader here, but she's the strongest. After passing through the tunnel, Wu Yan, Mikoto, and Chuju immediately saw a bright light in front of them. Then, a circular plaza appeared in front of them. Compared to the previous plaza, this place is much wider. It doesn't look like it was man-made. On the surrounding walls, there are holes of different sizes. The holes aren't deep. Even from the bottom of the plaza, Wu Yan and the other two can clearly see the bottom of the hole. No matter how you look at it, it looks like a beehive. In front of Wu Yan and the other two, there's a hole that's a lot bigger than the other holes. In front of the hole, there's a wide dragon throne. Although it's made of stone, it looks quite domineering. At this point, Mikoto's face darkened. Wu Yin and Hinagiku couldn't help but flinch. "What's wrong?" "Mikoto." Chuju walked to Mikoto's side and said, "Look." Mikoto frowned. She pointed at the dragon throne and said, "That's a dragon throne, isn't it? Isn't it obvious?" Wu Yin rolled his eyes. "Anyone can see that it's a dragon throne." Receiving Wu Yan's eye roll, Mikoto immediately glared back. "So stupid, anyone can sit on a dragon throne. Isn't it just an emperor?" Wu Yin suddenly shook. He kind of understood Mikoto's meaning. "You're saying?" Chuju's mouth is wide open. Looking at the tall dragon throne, she's speechless. Looks like she also kind of understood. "That's right." Mikoto looked at Wu Yin and Chuju. "Here, there are only a few small holes. We can see the bottom of the holes, including the one behind the dragon throne. This means that there's no other way. This is the innermost place." After saying that, Mikoto's face tensed up. "Since this is the innermost place, then where did the demon army come from?" Pointing at the holes, Mikoto said, "There's only one answer. Those holes are the demon's nest. And there," moving her finger to the hole behind the dragon throne, Mikoto smiled and said, "It's the king of these demons. The nest they're living in." Boom! Following Mikoto's words, the ground suddenly shook violently. The domineering cis cannon immediately revealed her true form. Her body tilted and fell into Wu Yan's arms. Red clouds floated onto Mikoto's face. Chuju on the side also fell into Wu Yan's arms from the sudden tremors. Wu Yan didn't refuse. He directly hugged the two girls and used the method of deflecting the force to stabilize his body. The ground started to crack. Rocks rolled everywhere in the tremors. Some even rolled towards Wu Yan's direction. Wu Yan was shocked. He quickly carried the two girls and jumped, dodging the rolling rocks one after another. When he couldn't dodge, he stepped on the rolling rocks and used the momentum to fly. The tremors became more and more violent. Just when Wu Yan was worried that the cave would collapse, a tree vine suddenly shot out from the cracked ground and arrived in front of Wu Yan like a gust of wind, whipping onto Wu Yan, who couldn't react in time. At this moment, a wave of energy came from Wu Yan's mind. It passed through his mind and spread to Wu Yan's body. Just when the tree vine was about to hit Wu Yan, the wave suddenly changed into an invisible dragon armor, blocking the tree vine's attack. With a muffled sound, the attack of the tree vines was blocked by the dragon-shaped armor. When the attack was blocked, the dragon-shaped armor flickered for a moment before disappearing. Only then did Wu Yan react. He quickly stepped on the tree vine, somersaulted in the air, and landed on the ground, a drop of cold sweat dripping down his forehead. If it wasn't for the mental dragon armor, he would have been seriously injured just now. Failing its attack, the tree vine retreated, but more tree vines started to shoot out from the ground. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of tree vines shot out. A giant tree rose from the center of the tree vines. There was a face on the tree trunk. It was gaping at Wu Yan and the girls. This is a tree demon or a tentacle monster? Chapter 43. Tree Demon. Level 45, the 5-meter-tall giant body and the vines that were even longer than its body swung in the air. The moment the vines touched the rolling stones on the ground, they were surrounded twice. Then, with some unknown method, the vines crushed the large stones into pieces. Wu Yan's butthole tightened when he saw this. He hugged Mikoto and Chuju tightly and shuddered. This tree demon that was familiar with the tentacle monster's skills was a great enemy. Wu Yan made up his mind in an instant. He cautiously looked at the tree demon waving its vines and decided that it would be best to end this as quickly as possible. If he was entangled, he would lose his chastity. If the two girls in his arms were entangled, Wu Yan wouldn't even have a place to cry. If he was NTR'd by a tree, Wu Yan might as well just die. Wu Yan had forgotten that Mikoto was level 69. Is it the king of this place? Chuju poked her head out of Wu Yan's embrace. She was used to Wu Yan's embrace. With Mikoto by her side, Chuju was still a little shy. She glanced at the tree demon and quickly turned her attention away. I don't know. If Hinagiku is a bit shy, then Mikoto is very shy. This isn't the first time Wu Yan hugged her, But the first time was when her mental state was a bit off after the massacre. The second time was when she first heard about the sisters, and her mental state was a bit off as well. This is the first time she's been hugged so blatantly by someone like Wu Yin. Wu Yin didn't think too much about it. Let's not talk about hugging them. He even bathed them. What's there to be concerned about? He only cares about this tentacle treant. He can't wait to kill it. Ignoring the fact that it's a male nemesis, even if it isn't, Wu Yin still remembers the grudge he had with the Tree of Vines. If it wasn't for the mental dragon armor's immunity to all attacks below level 50, that whip would have rendered him impotent. How could Wu Yin not hold a grudge? You girls wait here. I will cut it into pieces first. Putting down the two girls, Wu Yin said this, making the two girls feel a bit weird. Did Yin Mo have a grudge against the tree demon? You don't need me to do it? After Wu Yin put her down, Mikoto blushed and lowered her head. She's mad at herself. It's just a small tremor, a little bit of electromagnetic force would have been enough to stabilize it. Why didn't she think of that? Why did she fall into Yan's arms? Let's do it together. Let's get this over with. In order to avoid being NTR'd, Wu Yin went all out. Mikoto adjusted her state of mind and nodded indifferently. A level 45 monster is just a small monster to her. If it was together with the demon army from before, she would be a bit more afraid. Just this one? Then what about me? Hinajuku hurriedly made her presence known. You stay by Mikoto's side, Wu Yin said quickly. He waved his left hand, and a katana appeared in his hand. Okay, Chuju was a little reluctant. She was weak and couldn't help Wu Yin. Chuju cared a lot, but the situation was different now. Without the resplendent breath, rushing in recklessly would only lead to death. Seeing Hinajuku's expression, Mikoto patted her shoulder and whispered in her ear, "Wait until you become Yan Summon. You'll be able to grow infinitely stronger. At that time, come and help him." Chuju felt a little better after hearing Mikoto's words. She nodded firmly, indicating that she understood. It's coming. A tree vine whipped towards the three of them. Wu Yin quickly reminded them as he pulled out his new Nietono no Shana. The simple yet shiny blade flashed, and the tree vine that was as thick as a thigh fell to the ground. Damn! As expected of the weapon of the 10,000 years cute thing. Wu Yin touched the Nieto no Shana in surprise. Although he knew that there was a huge difference between each level of equipment, Wu Yin was still surprised by the power of the Nieto no Shana. At least in terms of sharpness, it was enough. No wonder the common armament and rare armament were only one level apart. One could only be used by low-level warriors or magicians, while the other could only be used by at least level 7. While Wu Yin was pleasantly surprised by his new equipment, the tentacle treant ignored the sliced vines as if they were nothing. It waved its other vines and sent Wu Yin flying. Yin! Seeing Wu Yin being sent flying, the two girls cried out in alarm. Wu Yin crawled up from the ground and waved his hand to indicate that he was fine. At the same time, he glared at the tentacle treant, his eyes filled with anger. Damn it, even my mother has never hit me before. It's fine if you hit me once, but you even hit me twice. I can't stand it anymore. Although Wu Yin had the protection of the dragon armor, this was the first time Wu Yin had been put in such a difficult situation by a monster of the same level. Therefore, Wu Yin was furious. With a turn of his body, Wu Yin dodged the tentacle treant's second attack. He continuously stepped on the ground and arrived in front of the tentacle treant with the speed of the wind. He tightly held onto the Nieto no Shana and chopped it down. When Wu Yin got close, the leaves on the tentacle treant's head formed a circle and covered its body from above. Wu Yin's attack only managed to cut off countless pieces of leaves. After his attack failed, Wu Yin stepped on the ground and moved behind the tentacle treant. Before his attack could land, another circle of leaves fell and covered the tentacle treant's body. Helpless, Wu Yin could only chop off another pile of leaves. At this time, several vines fell from the sky and whipped towards Wu Yin. Wu Yin was shocked and wanted to dodge, but a sound stopped him, and he continued to slash at the tentacle treant. The vines instantly arrived behind Wu Yin and wanted to whip him 3 times, but several black swords came from afar and shredded all the vines that attacked Wu Yin. Wu Yan's attack successfully landed on the tentacle Trent's body and took away a piece of wood. Roar! The tentacle Trent finally cried out in pain. Wu Yan was good at kicking a man when he was down. A red halo flashed around the Nieto no Shana as Wu Yan viciously slashed down with the glowing Nieto no Shana. Chaotic returned to Horizon Dance. With a cold shout, a red arc of sword light came out from the Nieto no Shana and slammed into the tentacle Trent's face. The huge force cut the tentacle Trent's body into pieces. With the remaining force, the tentacle Trent shot backwards and cut off all the vines in front of Wu Yan. The Nieto no Shana in his hand started to burn and ignite. Wu Yan looked at the Nieto no Shana in shock and then became happy. He didn't expect the chaotic return to Horizon Dance to be able to trigger the power of the Nieto no Shana. The already powerful chaotic return to Horizon Dance was strengthened to such a degree. What a surprise. One-hit kill. Stroking the Nieto no Shana's body, Wu Yan laughed and returned the sword to its scabbard. Are you all right? Seeing that the battle was over, Makoto and Chuju came to Wu Yan's side. I'm fine. I have to thank you for the iron sand sword just now, Makoto. Wu Yan smiled at Makoto, making her blush. Thus, Sundara Cannon decided to act Sundara. I only acted because I saw that you couldn't handle it. Don't misunderstand. I clap, 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 clap. A burst of applause woke up Wu Yan, who was enjoying Makoto's Sundara act. It also woke up Makoto and Chuju. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound and felt their hairs stand on end. A man was sitting on the highest dragon throne. The man had super white skin like a frozen corpse. His long black hair reached his waist, and his bangs covered one of his eyes. The other eye that was exposed outside of his hair was a snake's eye. King Orochi, level 50. Wu Yan's serious face fell. Orochimaru, Uncle Snake, don't tell me you also transmigrated? Or did you use the reincarnation technique to transmigrate into Butler Whirlwind? Looking at King Orochi sitting on the dragon throne, Wu Yan felt that he looked more and more like Orochimaru. If Wu Yan didn't ask the system before and knew that there were no transmigrators other than himself, Wu Yan would have thought that he was Orochimaru. Serpent King was still clapping his hands with an evil smile on his face. Interesting, really interesting. I didn't think that you guys would be able to break all my toys. It's a pity that there's nothing in this damned place. Otherwise, I would definitely reward you guys. Wu Yan looked at King Orochi in shock. He was speechless. Does he feel like he's going to eat me to death? If I was alone, I might have been eaten to death by you. But here, we have a girl who broke through the sky. Yan, look. While Wu Yan was speechless, Chuju suddenly exclaimed. She pointed at King Orochi's neck and shouted, Look, that's the heavenly jade. Wu Yan heard and quickly turned to look at King Orochi's neck. Indeed, there was a jade pendant on King Orochi's neck. It was swaying there. It looked exactly like the illustration handbook that I Cheng's mother showed them. Heavenly jade? So that's how it is. You're here for this jade tablet. Great Serpent King said with a look of realization on his face. As he spoke, he began to laugh out of the blue. Are you the king here? Makoto took 2 steps forward and shouted at him. This level 50 guy was so arrogant that Makoto was especially annoyed. That's right. King Orochi looked down at Wu Yan and the other 2 arrogantly. He stretched out his arms as if he was hugging something and said, I am the king here, the strongest dragon king. Dragon king. Dragon. Chuju was shocked. Wu Yan's mouth opened wide. Even Makoto, who could use the system to detect King Orochi's name, was stunned. She tried her best to hold back her laughter. She covered her mouth with force and looked like she was having a hard time holding in. After hearing King Orochi's words, Wu Yan no longer treated him as Orochimaru. This was because he had a strong Chinibu aura on him. Wu Yan almost laughed out loud. This Chinibu Orochi actually said that he was a dragon. Although it wasn't that he hadn't heard of dragons and snakes being family, and some fantasy novels and dramas didn't have scenes of snakes transforming into dragons, but for King Orochi to say that he was a dragon, that was a joke. Dragon, the legendary dragon. How could it be so white that it was about to enter the ground? How could a dragon be level 50? All right, Even those lizard-like dragons in the west wouldn't be so weak. Wu Yin already thought that King Orochi was a joke sent by the will of the universe. Of course, Wu Yin also spoke his own words honestly. Are you here to be funny? Wu Yan's words made Mikoto burst out laughing. Her hand that was covering her mouth moved to her stomach. She laughed so hard that Mikoto's tears almost came out. No, they already came out. Chuju looked at the laughing Mikoto and Wu Yin in confusion. What was going on? How dare you? King Orochi roared. How dare you look down on me, the great Dragon King? Mikoto laughed even harder after hearing King Orochi's words. Wu Yin couldn't help but burst out laughing. Seeing Wu Yin and Mikoto's reaction, King Orochi couldn't hold back his anger. King Orochi stuck out his tongue and licked his chin. His snake eyes glowed coldly as he looked at Wu Yin and the other two. I've decided I'll grind your bodies into powder and use it as insect repellent for my dragon cave. I've decided too, Wu Yin announced with a smile as he raised the Niatono Shana in his hand. For the development of comedians, I've decided to send you to hell to show off your talents. Chapter 44. I want you to die. The mocking tone finally caused the Orochi's king to explode. It opened its mouth and spat out a ball of purple liquid towards Wu Yin like a bullet. Its speed was unbelievably fast. On the surface, Wu Yin didn't care about the Orochi's king. However, inside, he was already very worried. Even if the opponent was Chinibu and arrogant, the level 50 was no joke. Wu Yin knew that there was only a 5-level difference between him and the Orochi's king. However, even if Wu Yin was only level 49 and only had a 1-level difference, Wu Yin wasn't confident that he could win against the opponent. After all, this was the difference between the tiers. Level 50 was already tier 6. Although Wu Yin was level 45, he was still tier 5. The difference between the tiers wasn't small. As the tiers increased, the difference between the tiers would become bigger. At tier 5 or tier 6, the difference between the two was already very big. If it wasn't for the two rare armaments, Shana and Dragon Armor, Wu Yin wouldn't have dared to fight the Orochi's king one-on-one. Especially the Dragon Armor. It was simply a low-tier artifact. It was completely immune to attacks below level 50 and could even weaken attacks below level 60. It was a great opportunity to exchange for it. Although he didn't know if a level 50 bag was included in the range of immunity, Wu Yin didn't want to test it with his own body. This guy was a snake. The ball of liquid that was spat out from its mouth was undoubtedly poison. Mikoto, protect Chuju. As he pulled out Shana, Wu Yin quickly shouted. He then waved the sword in his hand, and a gust of wind blew the flying ball of poison away. Be careful. Mikoto, who had already seen Wu Yan's intention to fight one-on-one, immediately used her superpower. Her entire body emitted a bluish-white electric current. She pulled Chuju, who was beside her, and stretched out her hand towards the wall. The two of them flew backwards as if they were being pulled by a rope. You still want to escape in front of me? What a joke. King Orochi laughed maniacally. Thinking that Mikoto and Chuju were trying to escape, he opened his mouth and spat out a ball of poison towards Mikoto. Would the level 69 Mikoto care about the level 50 Orochi King's attack? The answer was no. Without even looking, Mikoto's body surged with electricity and the venom was instantly dissolved. When King Orochi saw this, he was startled. A strong gust of wind came behind him while he was still in a daze. Wu Yin lowered his head and faced King Orochi's back. Being distracted in the middle of a battle, Wu Yin slashed at the Orochi King's neck as he muttered the lines that would appear in many melodramatic dramas. But someone will die. King Orochi King's mouth curved into a sinister smile. Facing Wu Yan's slash, King Orochi King only twisted his neck a little. His neck strangely extended forward, causing Wu Yan's slash to hit empty air. Without moving his body, King Orochi King's head turned back. His snake eyes stared at Wu Yan's face and shot a ball of poison towards Wu Yan's face. Wu Yin cursed in his heart. You actually imitated Uncle Snake's soft body modification and even wanted to shoot me in the face. You're not a girl. At this time, Wu Yin still maintained his slash. Seeing the poison shooting towards him, not only did Wu Yin not pull back his katana, he instead used more strength to slash down. The Yamano Shana was cut into the ground, deeply embedded into the rocky ground. Wu Yin used his katana to pull his body over, avoiding the oncoming poison. King Orochi King was very surprised by Wu Yan's actions. It was as if he didn't expect it. Thus, Wu Yin unceremoniously turned around and rewarded him with a punch, sending him flying with a backhand. King Orochi King flew backwards in the air with a furious expression. He forcefully swung his leg. Following his movement, King Orochi King's leg suddenly extended and kicked the stunned Wu Yin away. For God's sake, he can even use Luffy's move. Wu Yin, who was cursing in his heart, quickly fell to the ground with King Orochi King. In their first confrontation, the two were actually evenly matched. So fast, I can't even see their movements. Chuju rubbed her eyes. She forced herself to watch a battle of this level, using her eyes too much. Mikoto, who was beside her, didn't say anything. She just stared at King Orochi King and muttered to herself. Your claws actually touched this king. King Orochi King lay on the ground motionlessly. But if one looked carefully, one would discover that his snake eyes were filled with astonishing killing intent. With such a soft body, ordinary attacks couldn't cause any harm to him. But Wu Yin was able to send him flying in the battle. This made King Orochi King, who believed himself to be invincible, unable to accept. Kill. I must kill him. In contrast to King Orochi King, Wu Yin quickly got up from the ground. He touched the part of his body that was a little painful from the kick and rejoiced in his heart. If it wasn't for the mental dragon armor, it wouldn't be as simple as just a little pain. Sure enough, not all protagonists can fight above their level. If he didn't exchange for these two C-grade equipment, he might have already lost after that kick. Holding the Neon Danza, he pointed at King Orochi King, who was still lying on the ground. Wu Yin mocked. What? The Honorable Dragon King also has the habit of lying on the ground after losing a fight. Just as he finished speaking, Wu Yan's expression immediately changed. A chill rose from his back. Wu Yin fiercely slammed his foot on the ground and retreated. A small snake came out from the ground when Wu Yin retreated. It brushed past Wu Yan's face and slithered up. After being dodged by Wu Yin, the snake twisted its body and bit at Wu Yin. Wu Yan's expression changed again and again. Seeing that he was about to be buried under the snake's mouth, the mental dragon armor once again turned into an invisible shield and blocked the snake's attack. The small snake hit the mental dragon armor and made a crisp sound. Before it could attack again, its body was cut in half and fell to the ground. After cutting the small snake in half, Wu Yin stabilized his body. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Phew! Chuju let out a breath and patted her chest. Her heart was filled with fear. Mikoto smiled and put down her hand that was pointing at King Orochi. Ha! King Orochi stood up and looked at Wu Yin with a smile. However, there was no smile in his eyes. Not bad. Even this move can't do anything to you. No wonder you can break all my toys. Licking his lips, the Serpent King held his forehead with his hand and laughed so hard that his entire body trembled. Wu Yin gripped his sword and coldly stared at King Orochi. He wanted to cut him into pieces. He almost died just now. Let me explain again. Wu Yin is a very vengeful person. The wind started to howl. The ground started to shake. The atmosphere started to swirl. The blade started to whistle. Right hand holding the blade, left hand pressing down on the hilt. The blade lit up with red light, and a scorching aura started to spread. King Orochi stopped laughing when he felt the oppressive atmosphere. His face darkened and his body started to tense up. It's funny, isn't it? Wu Yin said faintly and then chuckled. Well then, let's see if you can still laugh after this. Wu Yan's body turned into a blur and he appeared in front of King Orochi. Chaotic return. His cold eyes stared at King Orochi. King Orochi narrowed his snake eyes and the blade flashed in front of him. Horizon dance. Bang! With a loud explosion, a red light shrouded the area where Wu Yin and Orochi King are standing. Dust and pebbles were blown into the air by the explosion. The ground around them cracked and turned into a barren wasteland. Chuju and Makoto were shocked. They quickly covered their faces with their hands to block the wind and dust. They tried to open their eyes to see what was going on. A corner of the dust cloud protruded out of the cloud of dust. Not long after, Naruto King flew out of the cloud of dust. Wu Yin followed closely behind as he arrived in front of Naruto King. He raised his knee and rammed it into Naruto King's abdomen. Why? King Orochi's eyes popped out. He opened his mouth wide and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Then he was pushed to the ground by Wu Yin. He slammed into the wall, and a human figure was blasted out. After getting his revenge, Wu Yin felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him. After the buff from Horizon Dance, the power of chaotic return to Horizon Dance had reached a new level. Wu Yin was very satisfied with its power and momentum. If Wu Yin could use the art of freedom, it might be even stronger. After all, Horizon Dance was a noble artifact of the Flame Mist Warriors. If Wu Yin wasn't fighting against someone of higher rank, he would have killed King Orochi with one move. You damned ant! King Orochi was furious. Ever since he became the king of this place, he had never suffered such a loss before. In his rage, King Orochi opened his mouth wide. Venom shot out like a machine gun towards Wu Yin. The overwhelming amount of venom blocked Wu Yan's path. Wu Yan's eyes focused. He gently twisted his body and rushed towards King Orochi. He waved the long sword in his hand and scattered the venom. Wu Yin, who had the sword mastery, had calculated every move carefully. Not only did he block King Orochi's venom attack, but he also opened a path for himself. After Horizon Dance knocked away the venom, the blade was still silver. It was not affected by the venom that could melt human bones. Wu Yin immediately approached King Orochi. Die! His hands turned into two huge Orochi's mouth. King Orochi grinned as he attacked Wu Yin. The mental dragon armor appeared and blocked the two huge snake mouths. Wu Yin already knew that he could not be completely immune to a level 50 attack. However, he could still weaken it. Therefore, Wu Yin ignored the residual force of King Orochi's attack and allowed it to hit him. His body shook slightly. Wu Yin's footsteps paused for a moment. He then continued to attack King Orochi as if nothing had happened. He arrived in front of him at 0 distance. What? King Orochi looked at Wu Yin in shock. In an instant, Wu Yin waved the long sword in his hand. The red sword light descended once again. Chaotic returned to Horizon Dance. After King Orochi was completely smashed into the wall, Wu Yin laughed. Just as he was about to withdraw his sword and retreat, a fist suddenly reached out from the wall and sent Wu Yin flying. With his other hand, King Orochi slowly walked out from the wall. Many years ago, he was only a slightly stronger snake demon. After being sealed in this place, he was humiliated and bullied by countless older demons. They were stronger than him, so the great Serpent King could only endure with all his might. Also that one day, he could stand at the top and kill all the creatures that dared to offend him. Gradually, as time passed, the great Serpent King grew stronger and stronger. In this place filled with powerful yaos, the great Serpent King kept on fighting until he killed all the yaos that had bullied him in the past. Then, he became invincible and became the king. I am invincible. Kill. 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 King Orochi twisted his body, and a low voice filled with killing intent spread out. Kill. 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 The low voice turned into a violent roar. The powerful sound waves shook the stone walls. A powerful aura rose from King Orochi's body, causing Wu Yin to be shocked. Bang! King Orochi's body suddenly exploded into pieces. A green light flew out from the broken body and into the air. The light grew brighter. Wu Yin, Chuju, and Makoto couldn't help but close their eyes. A huge snake head peeked out from the light and looked at the shocked Wu Yin on the ground. The snake opened its mouth and let out a loud roar. Sound, shaking the earth. Chapter 45. Its 50-meter-long snake body was casually placed on top of the beehive-like structure. Its 2-meter-thick snake head that looked like the head of a dinosaur swayed lightly. Its pale-sized snake eyes stared at Wu Yin, who was on the ground with a cold and murderous look. The tender flesh at the side of the snake's mouth twitched as if it was sneering. It roared loudly at Wu Yin. The sound wave swept away a large amount of dust and gravel, blowing towards Wu Yin, who was standing in front of the giant snake. Orochi monster, level 60, standing under the giant snake head, Wu Yin resisted the trembling of his body. He held Shauna tightly until the web between his thumb and index finger split open and blood dripped down. Wu Yin did not care. He only looked at the Orochi monster with bitterness in his heart. He did not expect that in the previous battle, King Orochi did not use its true strength at all, but made sense. If it was only level 50, it might be able to defeat any monster in this huge monster horde. However, it was not enough to suppress such a large number of monsters. To suppress such a large number of monsters, it would require at least the current level and a body that surpassed everything. Orochi monster. King Orochi monster's true form. Level 60, level 7, relying on Nippon no Shana, Psyche Dragon Armor, and Chaotic Return to Horizon Waltz. Wu Yin can challenge the level 50 Orochi King, who is one tier above him. Furthermore, with Psyche Dragon Armor and Chaotic Return to Horizon Waltz and Nippon no Shana's attack power, Wu Yin can slay the Orochi King. But 2 levels higher, even if they had B-grade equipment and gold-grade armaments, it was still impossible. Unless, like the demon army from before, they relied on their terrifying numbers to attack in a frenzied manner, as if they were sending themselves to their deaths. But was it possible for one person? The answer was, of course it was possible. Under the cold gaze, Wu Yin took a deep breath. He raised his right hand holding the sword and pointed at King Orochi monster. Run? In this sealed cave, where could he run to? Therefore, they could only fight. Of course, attacking blindly would only lead to death. But don't forget, Wu Yin's real trump card was the 830,0000 item points. Disregarding everything else, as long as he could exchange for a bottle of resplendent breath, he would definitely have a chance of winning the upcoming battle. The resplendent breath could force one's body into a state of invincibility. As long as one drank it, they would be invincible for 3 hours. This was probably Wu Yin's surname. At this moment, other than killing intent, the Orochi demon felt smug. In its imagination, when it revealed its true form, that ant should have a face full of fear and despair. Then it would start to run away. Then it would tease him and vent the resentment in its heart before dealing with him. But what he didn't expect was that this damned ant didn't seem to be afraid at all. He didn't run away as he thought, and he even dared to point his weapon at him. At this moment, King Orochi monster's smugness completely turned into endless killing intent. Wu Yin, who was shrouded in killing intent, froze and began to tremble uncontrollably. Wu Yin laughed at himself in his heart. Then, he clenched his teeth and prepared to open the system list to exchange for the resplendent breath. Yin, the next battle belongs to me. A bolt of lightning flashed in front of Wu Yin from afar, crackling incessantly. Mikoto stood there looking at the great snake demon. Her eyes were filled with the will to fight. Mikoto. Opening the system list, Wu Yin looked at Mikoto, who suddenly appeared in front of him. His heart was filled with joy. Yes, there's still Mikoto. I'm not alone, but can you kill it? Wu Yin hesitantly took a few steps forward and asked in a low voice. Mikoto closed her eyes. She knew that Wu Yin wasn't asking if she could kill Orochi monster, but if she dared to kill Orochi monster. But Mikoto immediately opened her eyes again. It's not a human. It's just a monster that harms people. I will kill it. Wu Yin muttered in his heart and looked at Mikoto. Can you do it? Hearing this, Mikoto raised her head proudly with a face full of confidence. Who are you asking? I'm Tokuwadai's trump card, the LVL-5's third place, Railgun Misaka Mikoto. Wu Yin was stunned. Looking at the confident Mikoto, a smile bloomed on his face. Then it's up to you, Mikoto. Wu Yin opened the system list and used 100,000 item points to exchange for a bottle of resplendent breath and stuffed it into Makoto's hand. If there's an accident, drink it. Although Makoto's life was fused with his, as long as he didn't die, he could use half of the summoning points to revive Makoto. But Wu Yin had subconsciously forgotten that in his heart, Makoto was just a girl who needed to be doted on. Makoto wanted to use this excuse to reject Wu Yin, but when she saw the serious look in Wu Yan's eyes, her heart skipped a beat. She quickly turned her head and touched the potion bottle in her hand. She drank it once, so she naturally knew what it was. She put it in her pocket and nodded. "Be careful." Waving her hand, Makoto looked at the snake demon that was getting more and more irritable. Blue and white electric sparks flashed again. The electric current covered her body, and the ends of her brown hair fluttered. Cool, free, and easy. Wu Yin couldn't help but glance at her. Then, he kicked off the ground and moved to Chuju's side. Seeing Wu Yin backing away, the Orochi monster wanted to attack Wu Yin. An inexplicable sense of vigilance rose from its heart. The Orochi monster quickly focused its mind. It saw Makoto staring at it. The electric sparks on her body jumped even faster, causing the Orochi monster to feel a sense of danger. Seeing this, the Orochi monster understood that the most threatening thing here wasn't Wu Yin, but the girl in front of it. "Yin, how are you?" Chuju moved closer to Wu Yin and asked silently. Wu Yin shook his head. "I'm fine, but it's up to Makoto now." Hinajika nodded solemnly. She couldn't see Makoto's and the great snake demon's level, so she didn't know how Makoto would win against such a monstrous monster. However, since Wu Yin chose to believe in Makoto, then she would also choose to believe in her comrades. As the electric sparks flashed on Makoto's body, the Orochi monster's sense of danger intensified. The Orochi monster believed that this little girl was definitely in existence that could kill it. The sense of danger had completely overtaken its self-esteem. Normally, if a little girl dared to stand in front of it and provoke it like this, the Orochi monster would have killed her without a word. But although it was a little arrogant, it wasn't an idiot. The sense of danger in its heart told it that if it underestimated the girl in front of it, it would definitely die. Thus, the Orochi monster retracted its killing intent and focused its thoughts. The gloomy aura on its body began to fluctuate. "Aren't you going to attack me?" Makoto shouted loudly. She couldn't help but be excited to duel with a strong opponent. She was a competitive person to begin with. Even if the opponent was a monster, even if this duel had escalated to the point where life and death were up to fate, Makoto only had one thought in her mind. Win. Since you're not going to attack me. Her bangs rose slightly. Electric sparks flew to Makoto's forehead and converged into an even brighter electric current. Then, it shot towards the Orochi monster. Then I won't hold back. The electric spear was Makoto's most common move. It didn't have much attack power, but it had the advantage of being extremely fast. Under Makoto's command, the electric spear caused a series of sonic booms wherever it passed. Before the monster could react, the electric spear had already hit the Orochi monster's snakehead. The Orochi monster only saw a flash of blue and white light, and then a sharp pain came from its head. In front of its huge body, the electric spear's attack power could only cause it a little pain, but it was enough to numb it. It wasn't until 2 or 3 seconds later that it reflexively raised its head. However, at the same time the Orochi monster raised its head, another electric current just happened to pass through its head. The Orochi monster raised its head just in time to deliver its own head. The electric spear hit the Orochi monster's eye. This wasn't just a momentary numbness. The eyes were the weakest part of the human body, even for monsters. Therefore, when the electric spear pierced the Orochi monster's eye, the pain was transmitted to the Orochi monster's brain, and a mournful snake hiss sounded. One of the snake's eyes was already closed, and blood was flowing down. The Orochi monster shook its head in pain, but it exposed more of its weakness to Makoto. Makoto smiled lightly and slowly raised her hands. In the midst of the electric current explosion, a wave of black sand flowed out from the ground, forming a black wave. Iron Sand, a derivative of Mikoto's superpower, using electricity to generate electromagnetic force to control the iron sand, and then using it to attack. Seeing that the Orochi monster had stepped in her trap, Mikoto pulled her hand, and the iron sand wave suddenly surged, forming iron sand swords above Mikoto. Only when there were over 100 iron sand swords, all the iron sand was formed. Over 100 iron sand swords were pointed at the Orochi monster, and each of them was violently vibrating like a chainsaw. Mikoto activated her superpower, and the iron sand sword shot out, piercing through the Orochi monster scales and piercing its huge body. The iron sand swords pierced through the Orochi monster's body like black needles. An Orochi monster howled in pain. Blood flowed out from its wounds and covered the iron sand swords, dyeing them red. So strong, Chuju covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. She knew that Mikoto was strong, and she could tell from the previous battle between humans and monsters. However, Chuju still underestimated Mikoto's strength. After becoming Yan Summon, can I also be this strong? Chuju looked at Mikoto in a daze, and then looked at Wu Yin, who was watching Mikoto fight, with a smile. Chuju's eyes became resolute. I must be this strong. I must. Wu Yin, on the other hand, had another thought in his mind. He didn't expect the difference between Mikoto and Orochi monster to be so huge. Of course, Mikoto was level 69, and Orochi monster was level 60. There was a gap of 9 levels between the two. Although it wasn't as big as the difference in tiers, it was still a big gap. If Mikoto was a peak Type 7 powerhouse on the verge of breaking through to the Type 8 realm, then the Serpent Demon was a newly ascended Type 7 powerhouse that had just broken through to the Type 6 realm. One was a peak Tier 7, the other a newly ascended Tier 7. It was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. What's more, Mikoto didn't hold back at all. This kind-hearted girl would usually restrain her superpower in order to prevent it from harming others. In the original work, Mikoto only used her full power against Fantasy Beast and Accelerator. Other times, her superpower was at most LV4. If it wasn't for this, the original main character Kamiju Toma wouldn't have been able to nullify all of Mikoto's attacks. That was lightning. Kamiju Toma had the ability to nullify anything that didn't belong to the human world, and also had Omen Perception. But to put it bluntly, he was only LVL 0. It was normal for him to block 1 or 2 attacks. Blocking 5 or 6 attacks could be considered putting his life on the line. But to block all of them, that was too unrealistic. The difference between LVL 5 and LV4, Wu Yin conservatively estimated it to be the difference between Tier 7 and Tier 6. The difference in tiers isn't that easy to overcome. Right now, the opponent was a monster, not a human. After experiencing a massacre, Mikoto had seen through things a lot. So, with her full power, killing an Orochi monster was more than enough. Wu Yin firmly believes in this point. Mikoto is just as confident. Chapter 46. Ouch, ouch, ouch. The iron sand sword stabbed into the great serpent demon's body was still vibrating. Every time it vibrated, blood would spurt out. The great serpent demon was in so much pain that its long tail lashed out madly, smashing its dragon throne, its residence, and the honeycomb-like building into pieces. Blood dyed its black snake body red. Orochi opened its remaining snake eye and looked at the tea-haired girl on the ground who was wrapped in electricity. Its eyes were full of resentment. "Do you hate me?" Mikoto unexpectedly understood the resentment in Orochi's eyes. She was usually soft-hearted, but this time, she was incomparably tough. Lifting her heroic face, she looked at Orochi and shouted, "Then who should those existences you call toys, those existences you use as cannon fodder, hate?" With a shout, the sound of thunder followed. The flashing blue and white electricity formed a net in the air. Under Mikoto's control, it enveloped Orochi. Suddenly, the sound of electric current exploded once again, followed closely by the great serpent demon's blood-curdling screams. The net of electric current covered the great serpent demon's body unceasingly, and the great serpent demon's body, which was under the electric shock, emitted a roasted meat fragrance, and its scales turned from black to charred black. The serpent demon wriggled its body and struggled with all its might, trying to break free from the electric net. Unfortunately, the electric net was not a fishing net or a snake-catching net. As long as Mikoto's calculations continued, the electric net would continue until the electric current was extinguished. Orochi was a bit desperate. After being tortured by Wu Yin, it had just returned to its original form. It originally wanted to turn the tables on Wu Yin. It didn't expect that just as it used its huge body to intimidate Wu Yin, this little girl would jump out of nowhere and torture it to death again. Even if all of its subordinates had died, even if its human body had exploded, even if it had reached the point where it had to revert to its original form, the great snake demon had never felt despair. But now it's just a little girl, just a little girl. How can I die in her hands? Roar! With a violent roar, Orochi's snake body stretched out. The net of electricity was actually broken by its movement. What? Mikoto was a bit surprised. She planned to use this net of electricity to end this battle. She didn't expect it to be broken. Roar! The roar from Orochi's mouth was no longer a snake's hiss. It was more like a beast's howl. Orochi had gone completely crazy. Now it only wanted to kill the girl who brought it pain. With a swing of its tail, the great serpent demon's tail broke through the stone wall and crushed countless stones in its path. Then it swept towards Mikoto. With the sweep of the tail, a strong wind blew towards Mikoto. Mikoto's body was blown away, and she almost fell to the ground. After all, she was only a 14-year-old girl who weighed less than 40 kilograms. The wind pressure was enough to blow her over. Chuju. Orochi's tail was very long. Even if it wasn't long enough to reach the other side of the square, Wu Yin and Chuju were just within its attack range. Looking at the sweeping tail, Wu Yin cursed. He hugged Chuju and jumped, dodging the tail. Seeing Wu Yin and Chuju dodging Orochi's attack, Mikoto, who was hanging upside down on the cliff, let out a sigh of relief. She didn't realize that she was wearing a skirt. When she was hanging upside down, she revealed the little cutie that Wu Yin put on himself. When Wu Yin saw it, he couldn't help but want to poke Orochi's eyes blind. It was fine if Chuju saw it. After all, they were both girls. To be seen by a disgusting Orochi was a big loss. No, this snake must die. Mikoto, hurry up and get rid of it. Wu Yin shouted at Mikoto. He hoped that she wouldn't expose herself again. It's fine if she showed it to him, but don't let others take advantage of it. No, don't let other snakes take advantage of it. So noisy. Just be a good girl and watch. Although he said that, he waved his hand and shot out 2 electric spears, hitting the big snake demon's body. Unfortunately, the advantage of the electroshock spear was its speed, but its attack power was really not high. Against a monster with a huge body like the great snake demon, its attack power was obviously insufficient. Unless it was like before and attacked its eyes, it would only be able to numb it. As expected, it's better to use iron sand to attack. Before she could finish her sentence, the Naga demon's head came crashing towards Mikoto. Mikoto calmly stretched out her hand again and pulled the Naga demon to the other side like Mount Tai. Bang! The rock wall was smashed into smithereens. Pieces of rock started falling down. The Naga demon pulled its head out of the rock wall, roared, and charged towards Mikoto again. You're so annoying. The frequent and frenzied attacks, in addition to its huge body, caused Mikoto to only be able to dodge for a moment. She didn't have the time to launch a powerful attack. One must know that a powerful attack requires a longer time to calculate. This made Mikoto a bit mad. A railgun who can attack isn't a good railgun. Only a submissive like Wu Yin would feel good in such a situation. Do you need help, Mikoto? Wu Yin hugged Hanajiku and jumped up and down to dodge the attacks. He's having a lot of fun dodging the attacks. So he's a submissive after all? I don't need your help. I'm Super Railgun, I know. Hurry up and take care of it, says Cannon. Wu Yin really wanted to take care of the Orochi that saw Mikoto's eyes. You bastard. Sparks flew. Wu Yin used his taunt skill and successfully triggered Mikoto's aggro. Mikoto's aggro was maxed out, and she transferred it to Orochi. He waved his hand to the iron sand sword on the big snake demon's body. The iron sand sword vibrated again, and like a vampire, it sucked out the big snake demon's blood. The sudden pain caused the big snake demon's attack to deviate, and it plunged into a pile of rocks not far away, causing it to howl in pain. Chance! Makoto's small face lit up with joy. She stood on the ground and pointed with her little finger. Iron sand poured out again and formed into iron sand swords. Then, with a shout from Makoto, the swords covered the sky and pierced towards the big snake demon's body. Seeing this, the serpent demon couldn't help but be shocked. Being pierced by these black needles was no joke. Dying from blood loss was a small matter, but dying from pain was a big matter. It quickly twisted its body and dodged the incoming iron sand sword. However, Makoto was the one controlling the iron sand sword. Under Makoto's control, the iron sand sword changed direction and continued to stab towards the serpent demon. Once again, the serpent demon rolled its body and dodged all the iron sand swords. After that, it swung its tail and swept all the iron sand swords away, leaving nothing behind. Behave yourself. Makoto pulled at Orochi's body again. The iron sand swords on Orochi's body were pulled out by Makoto's electromagnetic force. Without the iron sand swords, Orochi's blood gushed out like a fountain. With a wave of her hands, all the iron sand swords gathered together and scattered into a wave. They surged towards Orochi's head and formed a whirlpool. It was as dense as a dark cloud. Hey! Suddenly, iron sand swords shot out from the iron sand cloud towards the serpent demon. If Orochi was like a hedgehog before, now it was like a rooster. The iron sand swords fell from the sky and pierced its head. Blood splattered everywhere and flowed like a rooster's comb. Orochi looked like a rooster now. Feeling the pain, the big snake demon couldn't help but become even more frenzied. Not only did it not stop attacking because of its injury, it instead increased the frequency of its attacks. Its snake tail swung like a whip, leaving behind afterimages as it attacked Makoto. Makoto quickly raised her hand. The iron sand cloud dispersed and flew to Makoto's side. It formed an iron sand shield and blocked all of Orochi's attacks. The ground was not so lucky. Under Orochi's frenzied attacks, the ground was smashed to pieces. At this time, the place where Makoto was standing had a huge crater. But the rain of attacks didn't stop because of that. The serpent demon was determined to beat Makoto to death. It kept swinging its tail and slapping the iron sand shield. Crack! The iron sand shield began to crack. Hearing this, Makoto's face changed. Blue and white electricity surged all over her body. Her speed increased greatly, and she dodged to the side. Bang! The iron sand shield was shattered in an instant. The snake tail fell down and made the crater even bigger. Makoto had a headache. Although Orochi was strong, there was still a gap between their levels. If it was a normal level 60 monster, Makoto's first round of attacks would have been enough to kill it. However, the great serpent demon's body was too big. The iron sand sword that was supposed to be fatal had pierced its body back and forth countless times, but it still couldn't kill it. Moreover, the blood that flowed out from its wounds was almost enough to fill a pond, but it was still full of energy and didn't seem tired at all. If this was compared to a game, the Great Snake Demon would be the most classic meat shield. It had high stamina and high HP. If this continued, let alone waiting for it to bleed to death, even if it was stabbed a few more times and bled a few more times, it would still not be enough to kill this Orochi. Makoto's other moves were also enough to deal with normal people. However, against Orochi, the damage was too small. It was not enough to defeat it. What Makoto didn't know was that Orochi was purely relying on its insane willpower to survive. Although it was thanks to its huge body that it was still not defeated, it was still 9 levels lower than Makoto. This was a huge gap. A gap was a gap. Orochi was now in a frenzied state. It did not care about its own body. It only wanted to defeat Makoto. As long as it did not die, it would not stop attacking. Therefore, it led to this situation. It became an existence that could not be defeated. unless it was a killing move that could kill it in one hit. And Makoto just happened to have such a killing move. On a piece of undamaged ground, Makoto stood there. She stared at Orochi, who was about to turn around and look for a target to attack. In an instant, the electric current on her body surged. The blue and white electric current flowed rapidly, emitting a powerful blue light. Makoto's hair and clothes fluttered as if they were being blown by a gust of wind. Beep, beep, beep. Sounds of electric current could be heard incessantly. At some point, Makoto slowly reached out her hand. She pinched a coin in her hand and extended it towards the big snake demon that turned its head towards her. With a flick of her finger, the coin bounced up. At the same time, the electric current on Makoto's body flowed towards her outstretched hand. It came to Makoto's upside-down thumb and gathered together to form a white dot. Orochi roared and charged towards Makoto. Makoto ignored it. The electric current on her body flowed again. Under the electromagnetic force, the coin floated in the air and fell towards Makoto's upside-down thumb. Looking at Orochi that was about to hit her, Makoto's eyes narrowed. The coin came to her thumb, and she flicked it out. An orange beam of light shot towards the great snake demon. The beam of light pierced through its head, through its body, and out from its tail. It streaked into the distance. Chapter 47. Ding! Congratulations to user for leveling up. Current level, 46. Ding! Congratulations to user for leveling up. Current level, 47. Ding! Congratulations to user for leveling up. Current level, 48. Ding! Congratulations to user for leveling up. Current level, 49. Looking at Makoto, who was still in her shooting position, Wu Yin was in a daze. What classic scene? When was Makoto the most attention-grabbing moment? 10% of the people would answer that it was when Makoto was acting like a tsundere. The other 10% would answer that it was when Makoto was hugging Kota. As for the other 80%, they would answer the same question, that it was when Makoto used the railgun. This was a scene that made people feel Makoto's domineering side. It was a scene that could only be seen on the screen. But now it was happening right in front of Wu Yan. Makoto's image was once again etched into Wu Yan's mind. Domineering, heroic, and handsome. Compared to this feeling, the joy of leveling up was much smaller. After all, the opponent was a level 60 monster. Even though he was 15 levels higher, he only leveled up by 4 levels. Wu Yan could only say that the wall between the tiers was too thick. As for Makoto, she didn't even level up once. Wu Yan couldn't even level up to tier 6. If Makoto wanted to level up to tier 8, it would probably take a long time. So cool. Even Chuju couldn't help but praise. Chuju's image as cool was already deeply rooted in people's hearts. If she said so, then it really was cool. Yin this. Makoto came to Wu Yan and Chuju's side and handed a piece of jade to Wu Yan. At this time, the Orochi monster was already dead. Naturally, the jade of the Heavenly Palace was taken by Makoto. I finally got it. Wu Yan took the jade of the Heavenly Palace and couldn't help but sigh. In just one day and one night, the three of them had experienced a lot. From the wall demon in the beginning to the wolf demon, the demon horde, the tree demon, and the Orochi demon. Although it was just one day and one night, the process was indeed not easy. Makoto and Hinajuku also fell into deep thought. Compared to Wu Yan, the two of them had to endure a lot more psychologically. That massacre might have changed them quite a bit. At the very least, Makoto, this kind of Yakuza who only brings harm and no benefits, is now capable of killing. Although Wu Yan doesn't think it's possible for her to kill someone. But the rewards were also great. At first, Wu Yan was only level 30, tier 4. In just one day and one night, not only did he level up to level 49, almost tier 6, he also received a huge sum of money. 830,000, no, 820,000 item points. Even Makoto leveled up to level 69. He also received the Jade of the Heavenly Palace. As long as he took the Jade of the Heavenly Palace to I Ching's mother for the mysterious crystal shard, Wu Yan's quest would be completed. The rewards were not small. Wu Yin walked up to the head of the Orochi monster and sighed. Makoto's railgun had blown through it from head to tail. Perhaps even at the moment of its death, the Orochi monster still hadn't reacted. Ding! Received 50,000 item points. After handing over the Orochi monster's ridiculously large body to the system in exchange for 50,000 item points, this trip to the seal barrier had come to an end. At the same time, Wu Yan's journey as the whirlwind butler had also come to an end. Yin, I'll return this to you. Sorry, I don't need it. Mikoto smiled as she took out a bottle of potion from her pocket and handed it to Wu Yan. It was the resplendent breath that Wu Yan gave her before the battle. Why are you giving it to me? You should keep it. It's a lifesaver when you're in danger. Wu Yan glanced at her. With 825,000 item points, why would he be stingy with a bottle of resplendent breath? Isn't it more useful for you to keep it? Mikoto said confidently, as if she was the one standing in front of the truth. Wu Yan couldn't help but glare at her. I have plenty of item points now. What else do I need? You should keep it for yourself. Don't think you can do anything just because you won't die. You should know that resurrecting you will require summoning points. I don't have any extra summoning points to resurrect you. Wu Yan's summoning points were now 11,000. When he first summoned Mikoto, he used 70,000 summoning points. Resurrecting a summoned character would require half of the summoning points. In other words, resurrecting Mikoto would require 35,000 summoning points. What? If you die, won't I die too? I'm doing this for myself, Mikoto said awkwardly. She did have the urge to try something daring just because she could resurrect. Of course, it was just an impulse. She wasn't stupid enough to die for no reason. From this, it could be seen that Sis Cannon was very eager to find excitement. Since this idiot doesn't want it, then Chuju, I'll give it to you. Mikoto turned her head away angrily, as if rejecting her kindness was a stupid thing to do. Wu Yan was speechless. Me? I don't need it either. Hinajuku hurriedly waved her hand. Once this mission is over and we go to the other world, Yin will summon me over. At that time, I will be the same as you, so I don't need it. Have you really thought it through? Chuju. Hearing Chuju's words, Wu Yan couldn't help but ask. If you leave with us, what about your parents? What about your sister? Are you willing to let her go? Chuju was stunned. She thought for a while and smiled. Yeah, I want to choose for myself too. Besides, didn't you say that? As long as you leave, this world will freeze. The world will stop. You don't have to worry about them. You want to make a choice for yourself. Wu Yan fell silent. Why are you so long-winded? Do you have a problem with that? Mikoto crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Wu Yan with dissatisfaction. I said I want to choose for myself. Why are you being so wishy-washy? How am I being wishy-washy? Wu Yan retorted righteously with I'm doing this for your own good look. I'm just asking for her opinion. How is this being wishy-washy? You still dare to argue. Sparks flashed across Mikoto's forehead. She sneered. You should know that when I was summoned by you, you didn't ask for my opinion at all. Don't tell me I don't have parents? Wu Yan's lips twitched as he dryly laughed. Fine. It's my fault. Wu Yan cared a lot about Chuju's opinion. If Kaishu-sama doesn't want to go to Silveria with him, he can't force her. Wu Yan also wants to be with Kaishu-sama. That's why when Chuju chose to follow them, Wu Yan was happy and proud. If a woman is willing to follow you to the ends of the earth, then there's a 90% chance of cheating. Thinking up to this point, Wu Yan got more and more pleased with himself, to the point that he is showing it on his face. Seeing Wu Yan's proud face, Chuju snorted. Of course, I'm not doing this for you. I'm just protecting Mikoto. Protecting Mikoto? Wu Yan's proud face froze. Protecting Mikoto? What kind of bullshit reason is this? She's 2 times higher than you, girl. Protect me? Mikoto flinched. She patted her flat breasts and confidently said, Don't worry, Chuju. I'm very strong. I can protect myself. That's not what I'm talking about. Chuju walked to Mikoto's side and hugged her arm. I'm talking about protecting you. I'm talking about protecting you from this pervert. If I don't go, who knows what this big pervert will do to you when you're alone with him? How is that possible? Mikoto's eyebrows twitched. Under Chuju's valiant words, two cute blushes appeared on her face. Wu Yin opened his mouth and widened his eyes. He looked at Chuju and shouted, "I'm innocent. How am I a pervert? Chuju, don't accuse me. You still dare to say you're not?" Chuju's face also reddened. She gritted her teeth and looked at Wu Yin. You can even take off our clothes and give us a bath. What else can't you do?" Mikoto's face reddened when the past was brought up again. She glared at Wu Yin and looked at Chuju. "That's right, Chuju. You have to protect me. You can't let me be alone with him." Wu Yin really didn't know what to say this time. Kelp-shaped tears flowed down his cheeks like a river. Can't refute that. Who told him to have a criminal record? When Wu Yan's group walked out of the cave after half a day, the first thing they saw was Yi Cheng's mother sitting in front of the helicopter. She looked at them blankly. Her face was full of disbelief. She looked at Wu Yan's group like she was looking at Buddha. She muttered, "Hey, why did I have such a strange dream? It doesn't make sense. They're not my cute Yi Cheng. Why would I dream of such a strange thing?" Wu Yin, Mikoto, and Chuju were speechless. Wu Yin helplessly curled his lips. He took out the heavenly jade and walked in front of Yi Cheng's mother. He said with a smile, "Lady of the Heron Palace, we didn't disappoint you. We brought back the heavenly jade." However, Yi Cheng's mother seemed to really treat Wu Yin as an illusion. She still muttered her own words. Her level of disregard could break through the sky. "Lady of the Heron Palace, we didn't disappoint you. We brought back the heavenly jade." Wu Yan's voice had changed a little. His voice was full of resentment. While it scared Mikoto and Chuju, it also woke up Yi Cheng's mother. Could she blame Wu Yin? How could he communicate with Yi Cheng's mother if he didn't put in some effort? Yi Cheng's mother looked at the heavenly jade in Wu Yan's hand and said softly, "You're really back? You're all fine?" "Yes, we're all fine. We returned safely. We also helped you deal with all the monsters in the barrier. In the future, your family won't have to worry about the barrier anymore," Wu Yin said with a smile as he handed the heavenly jade to Yi Cheng's mother. Caressing the jade of the heavenly palace in her hand, Yi Cheng's mother didn't say anything. However, the most beautiful smile Wu Yin has ever seen since he met her appeared on her face. Holding the jade of the heavenly palace tightly, Yi Cheng's mother placed it on her cheek and closed her eyes as if she had just received a treasure. Wu Yin, Mikoto, and Hinajika smiled at this scene. They know that Yi Cheng's mom isn't acting like this for the sake of her family or the family treasure. She's just doing this for her daughter. She's trying to protect her daughter's spiritual power. That's why she's acting like this. Yi Cheng had a good mother. After recovering from her joy, Yi Cheng's mother sincerely bowed to Wu Yin and the other two. "Thank you. Thank you very much. You're welcome. We each took what we needed." Wu Yin touched his nose and said embarrassedly. He wasn't good at dealing with this kind of situation, so he felt a little awkward. Yi Cheng's mother smiled and nodded. She took out the mysterious crystal shard and slowly raised it in front of Wu Yin. "This is what Wu Yin, Kuan needs. I'll leave it to you. Wu Yin, Kuan, I believe that Wu Yin Kuan will be able to handle it well." Wu Yin took the crystal and raised it over his head. He closed one eye and looked at the crystal. Under the sunlight, the crystal emitted a warm light. It seemed to symbolize a new beginning. Chapter 48. Phew, the bed is still the most comfortable. Wu Yin was lying on his bed, rubbing his hands against the blanket. If it was a girl doing this, it would undoubtedly be very pleasing to the eye. Unfortunately, Wu Yan's actions were indescribably wretched. Wu Yan didn't care if he looked wretched or not. After staying in that place for a day and a night, Wu Yin missed his bed very much. If it was anyone else, they would be like Wu Yin if they stayed in that place for a day and a night with demons and ghosts as their companions. Of course, strictly speaking, the bed didn't belong to Wu Yin. It belonged to Chuju. Wu Yin was just a lodger. Not only Wu Yin, Chuju and Mikoto were also sleeping soundly in their room. They even refused to see Chuju's mother when she asked about their whereabouts. One could imagine how they were feeling right now. After rolling around childishly, Wu Yin finally stopped his brainless actions. Wu Yin flipped his hands, and two crystals appeared in his hands. Beep! Discovered two mysterious crystal fragments. Will you fuse them? This system notification rang in Wu Yan's ears when he received the mysterious crystal fragments from Wu Yan's mother. After all, Wu Yan's third mission was to find two mysterious crystal fragments and fuse them into a complete mysterious crystal. At that time, Wu Yan didn't know if he would leave this dungeon world immediately after fusing the mysterious crystal. On the way back, Wu Yan had already asked the system. The system's answer was that the user would only return to the Spalier world after leaving this dungeon world. Without any worries, Wu Yan of course chose to fuse the mysterious crystal as soon as possible because the reward for the third mission was very ambiguous. He could randomly draw a reward from equipment, items, abilities, or summons. This reward was good. If he could draw something heaven-defying, such as an S-rank equipment, an item, an ability like the Demon Eye of Death, or a demigod rank girl, the reward would be indescribably good. Wu Yan would be so happy that he would jump off a building. If he was unlucky and got something of little value, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. If it wasn't for the system telling him that the highest level of summons is demigod rank, if there are no gods, he would have wanted to try his luck at drawing one. Of course, he really wanted to draw one now. Wu Yan had an indescribable feeling when it came to activities like drawing a reward. Being dominated by the idea of, I don't know what I'm going to get, he's not in a good mood during the lottery draw. From his point of view, this is a kind of thrill, and he likes this kind of thrill. That's why I said you're a bottom. Weighing the mysterious crystal shard in his hand, the desire to draw a reward grew stronger and stronger in his heart, making Wu Yan's heart itch. Therefore, Wu Yan immediately chose to fuse the mysterious crystal shard. When Wu Yan chose to fuse, the two mysterious crystal shards left his hand uncontrollably and floated in midair. In front of Wu Yan, under Wu Yan's astonished gaze, the two mysterious crystal shards suddenly accelerated and collided with each other. There was no strange sound, no strange phenomenon. When the two mysterious crystal shards collided, they were like water, naturally fusing together. In the blink of an eye, a complete mysterious crystal shard appeared in front of Wu Yan and fell into Wu Yan's arms. Ding! Mission 3 completed. Mission reward. User can randomly draw a reward from equipment, items, abilities, or summons. Please make a random draw. The system list opened automatically without Wu Yan's consent and projected in front of Wu Yan. A glowing box stopped below the status bar. On top of the equipment option, a start icon appeared, surprising Wu Yan. As long as one wasn't an idiot, one would know what to do at this time. Therefore, Wu Yan straightforwardly pressed the start button. The glowing box flashed back and forth between equipment, items, abilities, and summons. Wu Yan's heart skipped a beat. At the same time, an inexplicable sense of excitement rose in his heart. When the box stopped flashing, Wu Yan was disappointed because it stopped at the item option. Were points precious? Wu Yan could tell you very clearly that they were very precious. Wu Yan now had 1,000 equipment points, 81,000 ability points, 11,000 summoning points, and 825,000 item points. Now, Wu Yan lacked everything except item points. No matter what item he wanted, this amount of points was enough to buy most of the items in the item list. Therefore, item points alone were what Wu Yan lacked the least. But the reward was to draw from the item list? Wu Yan couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. S-class equipment, overpowered ability, demigod level girl, that was all for naught. Facing the item list that popped up, Wu Yan casually pressed the start button again. Then, without caring about anything else, he began to think about what to do when he returned to the Spalier world. In the beginning, Wu Yan was too weak. Because he needed to become stronger, Wu Yan chose to stay in the Behemoth Forest and do mercenary quests and system quests while killing monsters to level up. Now, after a month of training in Butler Whirlwind's dungeon, Wu Yan's strength was already at the peak of Tier 5. He was only one step away from Tier 6. Then, there was no reason for him to stay in the Behemoth Forest. The outer edge of the Behemoth Forest could no longer satisfy Wu Yan, let alone the level 69 Mikoto. There was no need for him to continue staying there. Moreover, ever since Wu Yin transmigrated to the Spalier world, he had never left the behemoth forest. Even if he did, he would only go to the town to resupply. Therefore, Wu Yin was thinking about whether he should go to other places. For example, the Ailu Empire or the Lori family. Wu Yin had never forgotten the first person he met when he arrived in the Spalier world. Ever since Lulu returned home, Wu Yin had stayed in the behemoth forest for 2 months. Then, he stayed in Butler Whirlwind's house for another month. The time ratio between the dungeon world and the Spalier world was 100:1. In other words, it had been about half a day in the Spalier world. In other words, it had been about 2 months since Lulu returned home. He had no relatives or friends in the Spalier world. If he wanted to go anywhere, he needed a destination. Maybe he should go find Lulu. But would she welcome him? If it was Lulu, she would probably. If it was Fei Fei, it would probably be the same. But her family wouldn't allow Lulu to interact with someone of unknown origin, right? If you want to find Lulu like this, would he really be a man? Fei Fei had said before that the strongest person in her family was the previous head of the family, who was a Tier 9. If there were Tier 9 fighters, then there would be Tier 8 fighters as well. There should be plenty of Tier 7 fighters as well. On his side, Makoto was the only Tier 7 fighter. If he rushed in recklessly, he would only be courting death. But I don't think I'm going to fight, right? Why am I thinking about this? I'm just going to see Lulu. Wu Yin couldn't help but bitterly laugh at his own deranged thoughts. Too many battles have led him to think about everything in this direction. No way. I'm an otaku. I should think about the 2D girls. That's right. I should think about who the next girl I want to summon is. That's the main point. Ugh. I think it's Chuju. Just as Wu Yin was thinking about random things, a card suddenly fell on him. Wu Yin couldn't help but be surprised. At the same time, the system's voice rang. Ding! Obtained ability acquisition. Ability acquisition? What the hell? Wu Yin looked at the card in his hand in puzzlement. It was completely white. There was nothing on it. Wu Yin shook his head and activated the system's probing function. The system's probing function doesn't only check the level, it can also check the use of items and equipment, just like an appraisal. Wu Yin couldn't help but be stunned. Ability acquisition. After use, one of the summoned character's abilities will be acquired. The amount of ability acquired will be 1/10 of the summoned character's ability. Item points, 300,000. An item to acquire a summoned character's ability? Is there such an item in the item list? Wu Yin opened the item list, and after some searching, he really found the ability acquisition item. 300,000 item points. That's really expensive, but still worth it. Wu Yin looked at the ability acquisition item and smiled. Even though he didn't have much hope for this lucky draw, but to be able to get 300,000 item points, his luck is pretty good. If it was before, it might have been a surprise. Well, even though it can't compare to his whimsical S-grade equipment, but to be able to acquire an ability is still pretty good. Makoto is the only summoned character he has, and her ability is only Electromancer, LV5. In other words, this is the only ability he can acquire. Acquire 1/10 of Makoto's ability? That's at least LV4. The 300,000 item points he had spent to obtain the LV4 electrocute ability was worth it. One must know that Makoto's ability is also in the ability list, and LV4 requires 30,000 item points. Before that, he still needs to exchange for LV1 to LV3 abilities before he can get LV4. In the end, he needs around 30,000 item points. Ability acquisition card worth 300,000 item points for a 30,000 item points ability. No matter how you look at it, it's still a loss, right? Actually, it's not like that. Item points and ability points are not compared like that. The rarer something is, the more valuable it is. Among the 4 types of points, the most valuable is summoning points because it's the hardest to acquire. Next is ability points, equipment points are close behind, and item points are the easiest to acquire. After all, Wu Yin needs to fight monsters to level up. Once he kills a monster, as long as he kills it, there will usually be corpses. Turning these corpses over to the system, he can more or less get some item points. Among the other items, the easiest to exchange for points is also item points. Therefore, 300,000 item points and 30,000 ability points are actually not that different. It's just a matter of how Wu Yin uses it. If he uses it on a useless character, of course he will lose out. But if he uses it on a strong character, he can even earn back. Using it on Makoto is just right. Therefore, Wu Yin used ability acquisition without hesitation and clicked on Makoto's character status. Ding! Obtained Electromancer, LV4. A ball of blue and white electric current suddenly flowed on Wu Yan's body. As the electric current flowed, Wu Yan's body felt a stinging pain. Gradually, Wu Yan's body began to hurt, which surprised Wu Yan. Ding! User's level is too low, unable to adapt to the strength of the ability. Ability has begun feedback, forcibly increasing user's level. Ding! User's physical strength has met the requirements. Level up successful. Ding! Congratulations to user for leveling up. Current level, 50. The sudden warm current once again stunned Wu Yan. Feeling his physical strength increasing, Wu Yan was even more confused. Could it be that exchanging abilities can also level up? Chapter 49. Did I really reach level 50 just like that? Wu Yan looked at his hands and felt that it was unbelievable. This was not the first time that Wu Yan had exchanged for abilities. For example, Sword Mastery and Chaotic Return to Horizon Dance were all abilities that he had exchanged for. However, before this, he had not leveled up at all. Why would a level 4 ability suddenly level up when he obtained it? System, can I level up when I exchange for abilities? Wu Yan immediately asked the system. User, if you only exchange for abilities, there is no way to level up. No way to level up? Wu Yan was puzzled. Then why would he level up? Also, what did only mean? In other words, it was not only that he could level up. Wu Yan's head was about to explode when he heard the system's professional jargon. Then why would a level 4 ability suddenly level up when I obtained it? User, this is an exception. An exception? Some powerful abilities have requirements for the user's level. When a user's level meets the requirements of the ability, the user can then exchange for the ability. If the user does not meet the requirements of the ability will undergo feedback and forcibly raise the user's level until the user meets the requirements of the ability. Hearing this, Wu Yan was a little enlightened and then became excited. Then, if I can exchange for a super powerful ability with a high level requirement, then I can level up quickly. That's right. If the ability's requirements were high and Wu Yan did not meet the requirements, then his level would be forcibly raised. If the level requirement was too high, then it would also help Wu Yan raise his level to a very high level. As long as he obtained enough ability points in exchange for an ability with a celestial level requirement, then he would become a god. At this time, Wu Yan had already started to think about how to earn ability points. Unfortunately, this was just a fantasy. When Wu Yan's fantasy reached its peak, the system poured a basin of cold water on him. Reminder to the user. The user has exchanged for an overly powerful ability. When receiving the feedback of the ability, if the user's body cannot withstand the feedback of the ability, the user's body will disintegrate and die. Wu Yan's smirking face suddenly froze, and then he smiled as if nothing had happened. If the body can't withstand the energy feedback, it will die. Is that what you want to say? Yes. As if it did not notice the dark aura behind Wu Yan, the system's mechanical and emotionless voice revealed the cruel truth. Wu Yan was angry. He jumped up and shouted, "If that's the case, why didn't you remind me? You have to know that I just received the feedback of an ability. What if I couldn't withstand it and died?" As he stomped his feet, Wu Yan patted his chest in fear. No wonder his body was in so much pain after receiving a tenth of Makoto's ability. It was the body's ability feedback. If he wasn't able to take it, Wu Yan shuddered. His eyes that were filled with rage also showed signs of weeping, but no tears came out. A system that doesn't cheat people isn't called a system. Sure enough, all the systems in history are cheating people. When a user can't withstand the energy feedback, the system will automatically remind the user and forcibly stop the ability. This is the system's setting. Then why didn't you remind me? You don't say, when a person is angry, the system's calm voice is like oil. It makes the person who heard it even angrier. The current Wu Yin was in such a mood. The level requirement for a LV4 ability is level 50, and the user was level 49 at that time. He was only a bit away from level 50. The feedback of the ability was not high. According to the system's judgment, the user's body is strong enough to withstand the energy feedback. There is no danger of death. It is within the system's permissible range. There is no need to remind the user. Resisting the urge to perish together with the system, he leapt back onto the bed. The background is dark, the aura of death is all over him, and his heart is cold. It was within the system's permissible range? The feedback was not high. What the hell? The pain just now was so intense that he wanted to die. You call that not high? It was within the permissible range? Bringing bad luck to me in a situation where my life is not in danger. This is within the permissible range. How can this be? Coach, I want to appeal. Just forcibly leveling up one level caused his body to suffer so much pain. If it wasn't for the fact that he successfully leveled up, his body would probably be so tired that he couldn't move. If he leveled up too much, wouldn't he be dead meat? Looks like I have to be more careful when exchanging for abilities in the future. The next morning, Wu Yin got out of bed. After stretching, Wu Yin walked out of his room. After sleeping for an entire day, it's time to leave this world and return to the Spalier world. At this time, the sun had just risen. Chuju's mother hasn't woken up yet. Thus, Wu Yin walked directly to Chuju's room. Mikoto and Chuju are sleeping in the same room. Yuri's intention is clear. Without knocking, Wu Yin opened the door and walked in. With Mikoto's ability, it's a lot more convenient to open locks. Of course, the chances to enjoy benefits have also increased. Maintaining the position of opening the door, Wu Yin looked at the two sleeping girls on the bed. After thinking for 0.1 seconds, he walked in. Of course, he still eliminated the sound of his footsteps. Closing the door behind him, Wu Yin found a chair and sat down. He couldn't wait to look at the bed. From time to time, he would nod in satisfaction. For some unknown reason, the two women, who had to wear pajamas to sleep, were now completely naked. Well, it can't be said that they are naked. The lower half of their bodies are still wearing the little cuties that Wu Yin put on them. It can be considered as not having a full body. But it's almost there. Although he doesn't know what kind of fun game they played last night, that's why they aren't wearing pajamas. But of course, he can't miss this opportunity. Thus, Wu Yin almost instantly used perfect memory to record this scene in his mind. Glancing at Chuju and Mikoto's small breasts, Wu Yin couldn't help but sigh. They still haven't grown much. If I knew earlier, I would have helped them develop a bit more when I helped them bathe last time. Perhaps because Wu Yin's gaze was too unrestrained. The sleeping Mikoto couldn't help but wake up. As a level 69 Mikoto, how could she not notice someone intruding while she was sleeping? If it wasn't for the fact that she was in a safe place and that she was too tired yesterday, she would have already woken up. Opening her eyes, Mikoto vigilantly looked at Wu Yin's direction. When she saw that the person in question was Wu Yin, she couldn't help but be stunned. Then, she frowned. What are you doing here? Also, you're very rude. You didn't even wake me up. Seeing Mikoto talk to him so calmly, completely ignoring her severely exposed body, Wu Yin was stunned. After a while, Wu Yin knew that things were bad. Last time when he helped Mikoto take a bath, Wu Yin still remembered how Mikoto dealt with him. This time, he's really going to die again. Wu Yin's heart was starting to feel a bit scared. Since he's half dead, Wu Yin prepared to persuade Mikoto to at least not wake Kaisha-sama up. Wu Yin looked at Mikoto seriously and said, Mikoto, you must listen to me. You must not be impulsive. Mikoto yawned and sat up. Just like that, her beautiful body was exposed in front of Wu Yin. But Wu Yin wasn't in the mood to continue admiring it, because Mikoto's yawn suddenly stopped halfway. She felt her body become cold. She finally remembered what state she was in. Her eyes slightly protruding, Mikoto stared blankly at Wu Yin. Feeling her body become colder and colder, her face finally changed. Shit, Seeing Makoto's face slowly turning into one of fear and her mouth starting to move, he quickly jumped in front of her and covered her mouth with his hand. Makoto, it's my fault, it's all my fault. But don't scream, at least don't let Hinajika wake up. Otherwise, everyone in the neighborhood will know that I've seen you naked. Being shocked by Wu Yan's actions, Makoto's face started to brighten up. Shame? Shyness? In short, Makoto's head started to emit sparks. If it was before, Wu Yan would have started praying for himself in the face of being electrocuted. But now, he has the same ability as Makoto. Even though he's only at LV4, which is equivalent to 1/10 of Makoto's level, just electrocution alone can't do anything to him. Ignoring the electricity on Makoto's body, Wu Yan was only worried that the sound of Makoto's electricity would wake Chuju up. If that happens, he'll be dead for sure. Compared to the powerful Makoto, for some reason, Wu Yan is more afraid of Kaishima. Calm down. Seeing Makoto's body getting more and more electric current and the sound getting louder and louder, Wu Yan started to get anxious. In his desperation, Wu Yan flipped over and pressed Makoto down on the bed. He kept shaking his head to and fro, telling her to calm down. But Wu Yan apparently forgot that this kind of action is the prelude to some kind of pushing down action. The electricity on Makoto's body had already disappeared. She was pushed down on the bed by Wu Yan and pressed down on Wu Yan's body. Seeing Wu Yan's face so close to hers, Makoto's eyes rolled back and her mind went blank. Wu Yan looked at Makoto strangely. Seeing that she's in a daze and not moving at all, he couldn't help but consider whether or not he should make a run for it. Beep! The sound of electricity flowed again. Makoto's head was smoking and electricity was emitting from her forehead. She looked at Wu Yan as if she was looking at a dead man. The truth is, Makoto really wanted to kill Wu Yan. No, she didn't want to. She already started to act. In a flash, Makoto directed all the electricity to Wu Yan's body, trying to electrocute Wu Yan to death. The sudden electricity made Wu Yan gasp for breath. But in the blink of an eye, he returned to normal. Makoto was obviously holding back. The electricity she released wasn't enough to hurt anyone. Thus, Wu Yan, who also had the ability to electrocute, took it all. He didn't receive any damage at all. Not even a strand of his hair stood up. Little girl, your ability is useless against me. It's better if you listen to me obediently. Feeling that Makoto was no longer a threat to him, Wu Yan was pleased. Makoto looked at Wu Yan in surprise. With her mouth covered, she couldn't say anything so naturally. She couldn't ask any questions. But questions and whatnot can wait until after Sky takes care of this damn pervert. It won't be too late to ask. Electrocution didn't work. Does that mean Makoto has no other methods? No. Staying by Chuju's side for a while, Makoto didn't learn nothing. She reached out and clenched her fist. With a red face, Makoto punched Wu Yan, this shameless guy, away from her body. Then she quickly pulled the blanket over her body and buried her head in it. When did Wani-sama have such strength? Lying on the floor, Wu Yan's head was full of such thoughts. She had enough strength to punch him away. Why did that Yuri girl Shiroi Kuriko touch his body when he overused his ability and ran out of electricity? This doesn't make sense. Chapter 50. Behemoth Forest. Back when Wu Yan left the place where he entered the dungeon, the bonfire was still glowing red. There were still some sparks in it that were not completely extinguished. No demons came here either. It was still the same as before Wu Yan entered the dungeon. Of course, although Wu Yan had stayed in Butler Whirlwind's dungeon for a month, under the 100 one-time ratio, not even a day had passed in the Spalier world. Wu Yan chose to return. Naturally, he returned to his original place. Two figures appeared out of thin air beside the bonfire. There was no warning at all. Wu Yan patted his clothes calmly and stepped on the bonfire to extinguish it. It was as if he had been here all along and had never left. Makoto looked around curiously. She looked left and right as if she wanted to find out what was different about this place. However, it was obvious that she was disappointed. Putting aside the demons, Behemoth Forest was just a huge forest. It was no different from a normal forest. Makoto turned her head away and said disappointedly, "What? Isn't it just a normal forest? I thought there was something different about it." Wu Yin tilted his head and laughed. "So that's what you thought? Then, I'll give you a surprise later." "Oh." Makoto looked at him without saying anything. Lightning flashed across her forehead. She humphed and said, "Then I'm really looking forward to it." Waving his hands, he decided to ignore her. This girl is still holding a grudge against him for what happened this morning. She clearly punched him in the face, seriously. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and summon Chuju." Makoto couldn't help but give him a big slap on the back when she saw him trying to act like he's deep in thought. This girl is definitely doing it on purpose. Wu Yin almost fell to the ground from Sis Cannon's slap. He touched his empty chest and rolled his eyes at her. Unfortunately, Sis Cannon ignored him. Pulling open the system list, Wu Yin directly tapped on the summon option. After casually stretching it a few times, Wu Yin quickly found the option for Chuju. Guei Chuju, a character from Butler Whirlwind, the student council president of the White Emperor College. 5,000 summoning points. That's right, 5,000 points. The guild leader was just that cheap. Even if she had a lot of love, she was only level 18 at the end of the day. Of course, it wouldn't be that expensive. Summoning Chuju was a piece of cake for Wu Yin. Even after summoning Makoto, he only had 11,000 summoning points left. Wu Yin solemnly tapped on the summon option. Soon, the scene of him summoning Makoto appeared in front of him. A ray of light flashed. Wu Yin and Makoto couldn't help but raise their hands to shield their eyes. Chuju was drawn in the light. It was as if the light was a piece of paper and an invisible pen was drawing something on it. Chuju was slowly drawn just like that. When Chuju fully appeared in front of Wu Yin and Makoto, the light disappeared. A very small but beautiful ray of light shot out from Chuju's body and connected to Wu Yin's body. After experiencing it once, Wu Yin wasn't as scared as before. He stood in place and looked at Chuju. Makoto, on the other hand, looked at everything strangely. When she was first summoned, she hadn't woken up yet, just like how Chuju was now. Soon, Wu Yin's heartbeat was synchronized with Chuju's. Then, the ray of light broke and gathered into a ball of light that merged into Wu Yin's body. Wu Yin reflexively looked at his own body. He was puzzled. Although it was called life fusion, Wu Yin could feel the feeling of two people sharing one life. But he didn't know how to describe it. Chuju. Makoto's voice drew Wu Yin's attention away from his own body. After completing the life fusion, Chuju had already woken up. She was together with Makoto, looking around in surprise. From Chuju's point of view, Wu Yin and Makoto had just said goodbye to her and disappeared into nothingness. Then, she felt dizzy. Memories of the system, summoning, and basic information about Wu Yin suddenly appeared in her mind. When she finished digesting these memories, she opened her eyes and found herself in this forest. When Makoto told her that this was a different world, Chuju was stunned. In the blink of an eye, something happened that she couldn't understand. This made Chuju sigh at the wonders of the system. Has the summoning ended? Didn't you say life fusion? Why don't I feel any changes? Chuju looked at her body strangely and asked Makoto. I don't know either. Makoto rubbed her chin and blinked. When I was summoned, I didn't feel any changes either. I just felt a sense of familiarity from Yin. Makoto felt a little embarrassed towards the end, so she spoke very softly so that only Hinagika could hear. That's true. Chuju looked at Wu Yin, who was standing in front of her with a head full of question marks. She felt a sense of familiarity from him and blushed a little. But then, Chuju clasped her hands together and put them in front of her chest and smiled. Life fusion? The two girls in front of him whispered to each other. Wu Yin felt bored. A winner in life should be ostracized. Wu Yin already knew this. As long as he didn't get burned, anything would be fine. Clapping his hands to attract Makoto and Chuju's attention, Wu Yin said, Okay, let's talk later. Let's talk about what to do next. What to do next? The two girls looked at Wu Yin in confusion. Yes. Wu Yin found a place to sit down and said to the two girls, Do we stay here or do we go out? What should we do if we stay here? Where do we go after we go out? Don't you think we should discuss this? Even if you say so. The two girls looked at each other and sat down in front of Wu Yin. We don't know what to do. That's why we need to discuss it. Wu Yin looked at them helplessly. Aren't they usually smart? One from White Emperor College and the other from Tokuwadai High. They are both noble schools. Originally, he wanted to rely on them to give him some ideas. But the problem is, we aren't familiar with this world. Mikoto stroked the tea-colored hair on her forehead and wrinkled her nose. If we have a map or something, we can study it. But right now, we don't know anything. How can we plan? Didn't you say it before? You've been in this world for 3 months. Then, you should be more familiar with this world than us, right? Don't tell me you didn't plan it. Hanajiku seems to be a bit resistant to sitting on the empty ground. She kept fidgeting around restlessly as she told Wu Yin without a care in the world. But I haven't been to any place. Wu Yin smiled brightly. Although he has been in this world for 3 months, other than the behemoth forest and the supply town, Wu Yin hasn't been to any other place. As for a map or something, well, the system should have it. Wu Yin remembered that the system once asked him if he wanted to exchange for a map of the behemoth forest. When he first came to this world, the price was 3,000 item points. What a shameless system. You've been in this world for 3 months, and you haven't left this forest. Mikoto looked at Wu Yin strangely. It's as if she's looking at a primitive barbarian, causing him to feel all sorts of irritation. I'm sorry if I don't know anything. Wu Yin pursed his lips and decided to ignore Mikoto's disdainful gaze. So, Wu Yin looked at Chuju and asked, Chuju, what do you think? Both of them looked at Chuju at the same time. Chuju pondered for a moment and suddenly said, Yin, you said that people who are fused with your life can increase their strength through fighting monsters in the game, right? Hearing Chuju's question, Wu Yin paused for a moment and then nodded. Yes, to be exact, it should be to increase your level. As long as you keep fighting and defeating enemies, you can gain experience and level up. Hearing Wu Yin's words, Chuju smiled and looked at Wu Yin and Mikoto. She said seriously, Then Mikoto, I want to level up. You want to level up? Wu Yin and Mikoto were surprised. But after a while, Mikoto understood. Wu Yin was a bit confused. In Wu Yin's mind, Kaishu-sama wasn't someone who cared about strength. Although she was a bit competitive, she always had a vague attitude toward strength. Her usual exercise was just purely because she liked to exercise. In the original work, after meeting the main character, she hated herself for being strong. She thought that she wasn't like a girl. So, when Kaishu-sama said that she wanted to level up, Wu Yin felt that it was a bit of a trap. Why do you want to level up? Wu Yin looked at Chuju curiously and asked. Chuju's eyes started to wander. She stuttered and didn't know what to say. In the end, she turned her head and said in a bad mood, Just think of it as because my ego is too strong. For some reason, Wu Yin heard a hint of complaint in Kaishu-sama's tone. Wu Yin laughed dryly and waved his hand. If that's the case, then let's level up Chuju first. Of course, this was also what Wu Yin wanted. After all, Kaishu-sama's level was a bit low. It was better to raise her level first. And raise her level, all right. Mikoto stood up and cracked her fingers. She smiled. Let's see what the demons that Yin mentioned look like and how strong they are. Hey, you're a girl. Don't crack your fingers. It's easy to scare kids. Are you a female pervert? Do you need to be so excited? Wu Yin looked at Mikoto in embarrassment. Didn't they say that Sis Cannon would often show her shy and arrogant side? How come I'm a violent person? Baidu, you're a scammer. Of course, Mikoto said without turning her head. I've never seen a demons before. It's my first time fighting one too. Wu Yin looked at Mikoto, speechlessly. He stood up and said to the two girls, Then it's decided. I remember that there's a level 20 bear around here. Your first time will be on it. What do you mean? Mikoto's smile froze. She looked at Wu Yin with a ferocious expression. The electric current on her forehead jumped happily. If Wu Yin said it again, it would jump on Wu Yin's body. Mama! With the same ability as Mikoto, Wu Yin was no longer afraid of Mikoto's electric shock. So, teasing her was a surprise? Beat! You bastard! Mikoto gritted her teeth and looked at Wu Yin. She wanted to bite him. What happened in the morning also appeared in her mind. Her delicate little face blushed. Looking at the two who were at each other's throats, Chuju sighed helplessly. That can't. Chapter 51. Is this the little bear you were talking about? Mikoto clenched her fists as she allowed the 3-meter-tall little bear to bare its fangs and brandish its claws at her. Her brown eyes weren't looking at the bear, but at Wu Yin instead. Her forehead was pulsing with a dangerous bluish-white light. Chuju also had an embarrassed expression as she looked at the little bear Wu Yin was talking about. Her white cherry blossom was frozen in place. Isn't this a little bear? Wu Yin said with a matter-of-fact expression. Compared to the other monsters in the behemoth forest, this 3-meter-tall bear wasn't tall at all. It could only be considered small. When Wu Yin first arrived in this world, he met a level 10 wind snake. Even though it was only level 10, it was still close to 4 meters tall. Even Tier 1 monsters were around that size. This level 20 bear really wasn't that big. Huff, huff. Mikoto took a few deep breaths to suppress the anger in her heart. She opened her hand and shot an electric bolt at the bear. She vented all her anger on the bear. At this moment, it was as if she was possessed by a demon. Her opponent was only a level 20 monster, but she used all her strength to torture this bear. Listening to the continuous roars of the bear, or more accurately, the cries of agony, Wu Yin couldn't help but shiver. He felt like he's about to step into the gates of hell. Even Hinagika laughed dryly and took a few steps back. The brown bear crashed to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Chuju felt her body lighten. A comfortable feeling spread through her body. She smiled happily and clasped her arms that were strengthened a little. She nodded in satisfaction. Wu Yin also nodded and opened the status list. Chuju's status was below Mikoto's, and Mikoto's status was below his. They formed a vertical line. Character, Gue Chuju ability, none strength, D endurance, D agility, D spirit, C equipment. White cherry, D rank, level. 19 Wu Yin had asked the system about the status of the summon character. Although it was different from his own character, it was just a matter of the specific attribute. It was the same as the grading of equipment. The lowest was level D, and the highest was level S. If it was lower than level D, it would only show the word none. Could it be that displaying none meant that there was none? If a person's strength displayed none, then wouldn't that person not even have the strength to walk? Wu Yin cursed in his heart more than once. The system's status was a trap. Back then, his status was displayed as a great synonym for human. So this is leveling up? And I can feel that I have become a little stronger. Chuju waved her hands and said with a smile, Level up? That bear is only level 20, right? How did it help Chuju gain a level? Mikoto said as she kicked the bear under her feet. Wu Yin shrugged. It's easier to level up in the early stages. It's just like a game. Later on, it's harder. Mikoto, you killed so many demons in the barrier, and you only gained a level. It wasn't just Mikoto. Even Wu Yin himself felt that leveling up was getting harder. A level 60 Orochi demon, 15 levels higher than him, only gave him 4 levels. That was because it was easier to level up, but it wasn't so easy to level up. If it wasn't for the ability gain that gave Wu Yin a level 4 ability and forced him to level 50, who knows how long it would take for him to reach this level. That's true. Who knows when I can reach level 70? Mikoto lowered her head and said softly. Right now, she urgently needed strength. Only with enough strength can she defeat Accelerator and save her sisters. Wu Yin once said that if she wasn't summoned, she wouldn't have any chance of winning against Accelerator. When she was first summoned by Wu Yin, Mikoto was level 68. Even though she gained a level, Accelerator's strength was enough to make her have no chance of winning. Level 70, definitely level 70, tier 8 strength. The gap between levels is very hard to bridge. It's already like this when you're at a lower level, let alone when you reach Mikoto's level. The gap between levels is unimaginable. Just leveling up by 1 level is definitely not enough to bridge the gap. Only by reaching level 70 can I have a chance of winning. Not only that, in order to completely save the sisters, I'll have to face Alistair, the chairman of Academy City. He's an existence even stronger than Accelerator. He's at least tier 8, and the so-called Angel. If I want to save my sisters, I'll have to face them. That's why I need to get stronger. Wu Yin saw Makoto's expression. Wu Yin sighed and patted her shoulder, comforting her. As long as we don't enter your world, it'll always be in a frozen state. That's why we have time. Makoto, don't worry. Take it slow. There's plenty of time. Yin. Makoto looked at Wu Yin in confusion. Can I really save all my sisters? Not I. Wu Yin corrected her with a smile. Our lives are intertwined. We're fated to be together forever. Your matter is my matter. How can you forget about me? Oh, who wants to be with you forever? Makoto was provoked by Wu Yan's words. Her voice went from low to stuttering. That panicked look is cute no matter how you look at it. Finally, she's acting tsundere. Wu Yan smiled. In Wu Yan's mind, Makoto's tsundere is normal. Don't worry, even if they're the boss, we're still the main characters. They're fated to be defeated by us. Hearing Wu Yan's confident words, Makoto nodded her head heavily. Her expression was firm. No matter what, the sisters must be saved. From the moment Wu Yin and Makoto started talking, Chuju fell into silence. Regarding Makoto's thoughts, Chuju understood a little bit. That's why she didn't interrupt. She only looked at Wu Yin with eyes full of inexplicable ferocity. Wu Yin couldn't help but laugh dryly. Narrowing her eyes, Chuju gave Wu Yin a threatening look. Then she pulled Makoto's hand and said, "All right, let's continue leveling up. I still want to become stronger." Without any explanation, she pulled Makoto away. Chuju didn't even give Wu Yin a chance to speak and went into the bushes. This made Wu Yin feel helpless. The Crystal Palace, sure enough, it's not easy to open. Where are we going, Chuju? Makoto tilted her head and looked at Chuju. They don't know the way in the Behemoth Forest. Without Wu Yin leading the way, the probability of getting lost is as high as 99%. Let's just look around and see if there are any demonic beasts. If you walk around like this, will you really meet any demonic beast? I'm a real man. Didn't Yin say that there aren't many things here, but demonic beasts are? I think we should be able to meet them if we walk around. F***, I did say that. But demonic beasts aren't something you can meet just by walking around in the bushes. Do you think they're insects? Demonic beasts. Hee, like I said, we'll meet them if we walk around. See, isn't this it? Yeah, but this demonic beast looks like. Hearing the sound from the bushes, Wu Yin felt awkward. All right, there are demonic beasts that like to walk around in the bushes with Makoto around. Wu Yin wasn't afraid that the two girls would encounter any danger. After all, this is just the outer edge of the Behemoth Forest. The highest level demonic beast Wu Yin has seen is only level 30. Beep. A special event has been detected. Sudden mission issued. Sudden mission. Rescue. Mission 1. Kill all saber-tooth hounds in the vicinity. Current progress. 0. 20 mission reward. Equipment points, item points, ability points, summoning points, 3,000. Mission 2. Kill all Iron Dog mercenary group members in the vicinity. Current progress. 0. 20 mission reward. Equipment points, item points, ability points, summoning points, 7,000. Mission 3. Rescue the kidnapped Lirin and kill the vice leader of the Iron Dog mercenary group. Mission reward. Equipment points, item points, ability points, summoning points, 10,000. The system's voice surprised Wu Yin. Sudden mission? Rescue? These 3 missions, it seems like the killing part is more than the rescuing part. A special event has been detected. Is it referring to kidnapping? System, when did you become a cuckold pacifist? Wah, that's disgusting. Don't come over. Makoto and Chuju. Wu Yin stepped on the ground and shot out like an arrow towards the direction of Makoto and Chuju. Soon, he saw the 2 girls. What happened? Looking at the 2 girls' shocked faces, Wu Yin hurriedly asked. At the same time, he looked at their bodies, and when he didn't find any injuries, he let out a sigh of relief. What a disgusting dog. How come there are dogs in the forest? Chuju pointed at a beast in the distance and said with a disgusted face, "Dog?" Wu Yin was startled and turned his head to look. He saw a dog with long fangs and broken teeth standing there baring its fangs at Wu Yin and the girls. There wasn't a single piece of fur on its body. It was a bald dog that was almost as tall as the two girls. Most importantly, its mouth was dripping saliva. It looked disgusting. Saber-tooth hound. Level 20. I think that instead of calling it a saber-tooth hound, it's more realistic to call a bald dog. But it really is disgusting. Looking at the saber-tooth hound with a wretched face and saliva dripping from its mouth, Wu Yin waved his hand, and then Yamano Shana appeared in his hand. Without even drawing his sword, Wu Yin raised the Yamano Shana and flashed in front of the saber-tooth hound. He smashed the Yamano Shana into the dog's face. Whoa! The saber-tooth hound flew up high and landed heavily on the ground. It let out a whimper, and its face caved in as it kicked on the ground. Wu Yin rubbed the Yamano Shana's scabbard on the ground in disgust. Fortunately, the scabbard wasn't stained with the dog's saliva. Otherwise, Wu Yin would have to consider changing the scabbard. Yin, Mikoto, and Hinajiku couldn't help but flinch at the sudden turn of events. They didn't understand why Wu Yin sent the dog flying without saying anything. By the time they regained their senses, Wu Yin had already kicked the dog's body and the dog stopped moving. Wu Yin walked over to the two girls, and he frowned as he told them, "The system just sent me a quest." "A quest?" Mikoto and Chuju looked at each other. "What quest? Take a look for yourselves." Wu Yin shared the quest with the two girls. This was a function that only Wu Yan's summons could use. "Is it the same type of dog that we killed?" "So there are 19 of them." Chuju twisted her face as if she was disgusted. "Saber-tooth, hound. Iron Hound mercenary group." Makoto pondered. "It seems like this Iron Hound mercenary group is raising these disgusting dogs." "Yes, it should be." Wu Yin nodded. "Also, they seem to have kidnapped someone called Li Lin." "Kidnapping? How tasteless," Makoto said angrily. Living on the bright side of Academy City and having a discipline committee junior sister, Makoto didn't see these kinds of people. She also abnormally hated them. This is the so-called sense of justice. Chapter 52. So, our mission is to kill everyone in this mercenary group and rescue this person called Liren. Chuju looked at the mission details again and asked Wu Yin. "Yeah, the quest also said that they are nearby, so it saved us a lot of effort." Wu Yin looked around and he waved the Niatono Shana around with a smile. "Kill everyone." Mikoto frowned, her delicate little face wrinkled like a bitter gourd, as if she was struggling with something. "Killing people, wouldn't it be too?" Chuju's face was also a bit unnatural. In the end, these two girls are very resistant to killing people. Wu Yin, of course, knows that it's impossible to ask them to kill people. If that's the case, they won't be the Chuju and Mikoto he knows. Wu Yin just smiled and knocked their heads with the hilt of his sword. "I didn't ask you to kill people. Don't worry. I will do it myself." At the same time, they covered their forehead with their hands. Chuju and Mikoto glared at Wu Yin, then nodded, but their faces are still a bit ugly. Wu Yin sighed. "I say, for this kind of mercenary group that likes to kidnap people, you won't have pity on them, right?" Without waiting for Mikoto and Chuju to answer, Wu Yin directly said, "This world isn't as beautiful as you think. In this world where strength is everything, there will be some people who rely on their strength to do whatever they want. These people shouldn't be pitied." Hinajiku and Mikoto paused for a moment before falling silent. The two girls are smart enough to know that the phenomenon Wu Yin is talking about is real. Wu Yin tilted his head and raised his sword. "I won't ask you to do things you don't want to do, because if you do, you won't be you anymore, but I hope that you don't bring unnecessary mercy into this world. It's a bit unrealistic." It's more than unrealistic. If not, it will harm others and themselves. Of course, Wu Yin didn't want to say it in such a cruel way. In front of these two girls, I know. Chuju snorted with dissatisfaction, then said in a small voice, "At most, I won't look later." Mikoto pulled herself together and lifted her chin. She wasn't an unreasonable person. Ever since she found out about her sisters, she was prepared to accept the darkness. Of course, accepting it didn't mean accepting it. She just needed to recognize the reality. As for the darkness, looking at Wu Yan's back, Mikoto muttered, "He is shouldering it for me." On the other hand, Chuju was more open-minded. "Since you did something wrong, you have to bear the consequences. This is the righteous Kaisha-sama's thought." "Well, the punishment is a bit heavy." Wu Yin stood there, waiting for the two girls to mentally prepare themselves. Even though Wu Yin himself hasn't killed anyone, but in his heart, there's nothing he can't get over. He's not as weak as before, otherwise, he wouldn't have chopped off Slime's hand. "If that's the case, Yin, I'll leave that mercenary group to you. As for those sharp-fanged hounds." Chuju placed White Cherry in front of her and touched her, then smiled. "Leave it to me." "Leave the dogs to you?" Wu Yin looked at Chuju, unsure. After all, those dogs are level 20 monsters. Chuju is only level 19. Leaving the dogs to her isn't a good idea. "Don't look down on me." Wu Yan's eyes told Chuju what he's thinking. Chuju was a bit stubborn. "Even if they're a level higher than me, I won't necessarily lose." Wu Yan was a bit hesitant. "I know level doesn't mean everything, but you're not dealing with one, you're dealing with a pack." "Hey, did you forget about me?" Mikoto stood on her tiptoes and looked like she's ready to go. "These dogs may be a little low class, but they're more than a little disgusting. I, Misaka Mikoto, don't have the heart to do anything to them." "All right." It seems that if he doesn't get their help, they won't be satisfied. Wu Yin could only nod in agreement. "Leave the people to me, and the dogs to you. After you're done with them, go rescue that person called Liren. Let's find the people from that mercenary group first." Mikoto raised her hand. "The mission said that they're around here." Chuja looked around for a while, but other than bushes, there's more bushes. Including that vice leader, there's a total of 21 people, 19 dogs, and one person to watch. With such a scale, there's no way they wouldn't leave any traces behind. Let's search carefully. With Mikoto's and my ability to sense electromagnetic waves, we should be able to find some traces if the area isn't too big. Wu Yin closed his eyes, and a trace of electricity flashed through his hair. Mikoto did the same, and a blue and white light flashed on her forehead. Chuju had heard that Wu Yin could use Mikoto's ability, so she wasn't surprised. But here, she couldn't help much. She could only helplessly stay at the side and prevent the dogs from sneaking up on them. "Got it." Mikoto suddenly opened her eyes. Hearing Mikoto's voice, Wu Yin also quickly opened his eyes and looked at her with Chuju. Mikoto pointed in a direction and said to the two, "In that direction, I can feel the existence of electricity. It looks like static electricity, and there's a lot of it. It should be in that direction." "You can even feel static electricity?" Chuju looked at Mikoto with a bit of surprise. "Static electricity, although it's also electricity, but is it something that can be sensed by humans? Because the distance isn't too far, and there's no power plant, electrical appliances, or electrical wires to interfere with electricity, so I can more or less sense it." Mikoto tapped her chin and smiled at Chuju. "Is it in this direction?" Wu Yin looked into the distance, and then turned around. "Then let's go. We don't know if they'll do anything to harm Liren, so it's better to hurry." Chuju and Mikoto nodded, and then went into the forest with Wu Yin, rushing in a certain direction. After a while, some small sounds entered the ears of the three. Wu Yin knew that the person should be in that direction, so he slowed down his pace and signaled Chuju and Mikoto. The three crept forward. They stopped behind a tree that was big enough to block the three of them. Wu Yin peeked out an eye and looked out. A group of armored mercenaries were either standing or sitting next to a bonfire. These mercenaries were vigilantly looking around with weapons in their hands as they patrolled the area. There was also a group of sharp-toothed hounds walking around. Each of the sharp-toothed hounds had a ferocious face and saliva dripped from their mouths. They looked very disgusting. The sharp-toothed hounds were all level 20, and the mercenaries were between level 20 and 30. They looked like Tier 3 warriors. Seeing this, Wu Yin couldn't help but furrow his brows. Tier 3 warriors looked low level, but they weren't cabbages. Thinking back, When Lulu came to the behemoth forest to train, she only had 30 or so Tier 3 warriors by her side. Although it was because of Fei that she didn't need too many guards by her side, not everyone could be matched with such guards. But now, in a mercenary group, there were 20 Tier 3 warriors and 20 tamed magic beasts. This mercenary group was definitely not simple. What Wu Yin cared about the most was the middle-aged man sitting by the campfire, drinking wine in big gulps. Tieli, level 40. That's right, it was this middle-aged man called Tieli. He was actually a Tier 5 warrior, and he was only a vice leader. In other words, there was a leader, and this leader should at least be stronger than him. A vice leader with so many experts by his side, all for the sake of kidnapping a person. Adding on a special event mentioned by the system, Wu Yin felt as if he was involved in an inexplicable dispute. Someone elbowed his waist. It was Chuju. Chuju called out to Wu Yin, then pointed in a direction. Wu Yin looked over and was stunned. In front of a tree, a little blonde girl around 10 years old was tied up and lying on the ground. Her face was delicate and pretty. Even if she was compared to a small Misaka, she wouldn't lose out. At this time, there were still tears hanging from the corners of her eyes. Looking at the mercenaries surrounding her, her face was full of fear. Seeing this, if Wu Yin still didn't know that the person called Liren was the one who was kidnapped, Wu Yin should find a mental hospital for the elderly and hide in it. What he didn't expect was that the person who was kidnapped was actually a little lowly, and a very cute one at that. As a veteran Lulicon, Wu Yin, No, I'm not a Lulicon. Wu Yin, who was already starting to lose his mind and shout that he wasn't a Lulicon in his heart, didn't realize that there were already two half-lowly beside him that had just passed their sell-by date. Vice Leader, when are we leaving the behemoth forest? A mercenary who looked more experienced came to Tieli's side and asked in a low voice. Tieli fiercely gulped down a mouthful of wine and exclaimed loudly. He then turned to look at the mercenary and said casually, soon. After a while, when the news from Big Brother comes, we can leave the behemoth forest. That's good. After staying here for so long, I'm about to grow hair all over my body. Tieli disdainfully turned his face away and said while drinking wine, Aren't you just thinking about women? You can't hide that from me. After being seen through by Tieli, the mercenary who asked the question didn't feel ashamed at all. Instead, he smiled and said, Of course, how can I hide my thoughts from Vice Leader? I really can't stand it in this forest where there isn't even a single woman. Just you. Tieli shook the empty bottle and picked up another bottle from the ground. With a light pinch, the bottle cap flew out on its own. Tieli swallowed a mouthful and laughed out loud. Even if I let you go out, you still wouldn't be able to find anything good. Yet, you were still willing to put in effort on that kind of trash. Truly useless. Vice Leader, how can my taste compare to yours? Besides, it's already good enough that there is one. I'm just afraid that there isn't. The mercenary looked at Tieli with a fawning expression, looking like a lackey. If you want a woman, it's easy. Tieli looked at the little lowly Liren and grinned with a perverted expression. When Big Brother doesn't need this girl anymore, I'll play with her once. At that time, if you like her, I'll reward her to you. The mercenary looked at Tieli with a surprised expression. Thank you, Vice Leader. Then, the two of them burst out laughing. Those two bastards, Mikoto said with hatred. Tieli and the mercenary's words just now were heard by the three of them. Mikoto was really angry at these guys who even had ideas about a little girl. Let's take care of all of them later. Wien was also a bit angry. The little lowly was meant to be loved, but those two bastards actually wanted to eat her. And such a cute little lowly. Even if it's for the Lulicons, they must be cut up. Mikoto and Chuja nodded at the same time. The conversation between Tieli and the mercenary had thoroughly angered them. Originally, they didn't have the heart to kill them for a mission, but all of them were thrown into the smelly ditch by the two girls. Just like Yin said, in this world, there are some people who deserve to die. There's no need to pity them. Chapter 53. Mikoto, Chuju, you guys kill the dogs first. I'll deal with the minions first, then I'll deal with the big one. Wu Yin said softly to Mikoto and Chuju. At the same time, he slowly pulled out the Nyatama Shana. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on Chuju. Mikoto nodded when she saw Wu Yin looking at her. What? Hearing Mikoto's words, Hinagiku straightened her back in dissatisfaction. I'm not a kid. Do you really need to keep an eye on me? Wu Yin said helplessly. I say, Kaishu-sama, this is for your own good. Your level is still low. Wait until your level is higher, then you could do whatever you want. For now, be a good girl and cooperate with Mikoto. I know, it's not like I don't understand. Chuju walked to Mikoto's side and said angrily, At least leave me one. I want to help too. Wu Yin and Mikoto looked at each other and nodded after a while. All right, Chuju, you deal with one. It'll be good for you to increase your combat experience. Against one, with Hinagiku's ability, she should be able to do it. Although it's a battle of a higher rank, but the difference between rank 2 and rank 3 isn't that big, and the dog isn't as cunning as a human, so the battle should be much easier. He casually traded 100,000 item points for a bottle of resplendent breath. He brought it in front of Hinagiku and told her in a serious tone, If you encounter any danger, drink this. Don't take any risks. It's fine, be good. Wu Yin forcefully shoved the bottle into Chuju's hands. He looked straight into Chuju's yellow-green eyes and said word by word, To me, you're much more precious than that stupid potion. Don't even talk about 100,000 item points. Even if it's 100 times or 1,000 times more, it's still not worth a drop of your blood. Looking at Wu Yan's serious face, Chuju's face reddened. She took the bottle and held it tightly in her hand. Mikoto was also shocked by Wu Yan's words. She's only 14 years old. When did she ever hear such mushy words? She felt a little shy and a little envious. She looked at Wu Yan with a little warmth and dissatisfaction. Woof, woof. Suddenly, a dog barked urgently, startling Wu Yin and the other two who were hiding in the dark. Following this dog barking, a series of dog barks followed. At this moment, a pack of sharp-toothed hounds were barking at Wu Yin and the other two. They were barking while running towards Wu Yin and the other two. They were drooling all the way, looking extremely sloppy. Seeing their own dogs barking, the mercenaries raised their weapons and pointed them at Wu Yin and the other two. Ty Lee was also shocked. After he reacted, he smashed the bottle in his hand on the ground and ran to Liren's side. He ignored her struggling and held her under his armpit. He looked at the tree where Wu Yin and the other two were hiding. Facing the incoming sloppy hounds, Wu Yin almost cursed it out loud. Before he could do anything, Mikoto happily released an electric net and pulled all the hounds to the side. How could she not be happy? The three of them were assigned tasks. Wu Yin was in charge of chopping people, while she and Chuju were in charge of killing the hounds. However, the hounds were always with the mercenaries. Mikoto was still having a headache about how to lure them out. Now, she didn't need to do anything. Those shameless hounds were courting death and were charging towards them. Naturally, Mikoto used an electric net and pulled them to the side to slowly slaughter them. Chuju pulled the crystal sword in her hand and ran to the side. She picked up one of the hounds and started a battle between man and beast. Who are you people? While shouting questions, the mercenaries began to charge towards Mikoto and Chuju. From the looks of it, they didn't have any intention of asking questions. They just wanted to kill them. Ty Lee saw Mikoto and Chuju who were fighting the hounds. When he saw the two girls, his eyes flashed with amazement. Then, he became perverted again. His eyes darted around as if he wanted to capture them alive. When he saw Ty Lee's eyes darting between Mikoto and Chuju, Wu Yin, who was familiar with all kinds of melodramatic dramas, naturally knew what he was thinking. With a sneer, Wu Yin stepped out from behind the tree and shot towards the mercenaries who were charging towards Mikoto and Chuju. In Wu Yan's heart, these people were already dead. The mercenaries who were running around happily. Before they could even get close to Mikoto and Chuju, a silver light flashed in the middle of them. It was like a dancing firefly. Unfortunately, it wasn't a firefly that was dancing, but a cold blade. One of the mercenaries suddenly stopped in his tracks and attracted the puzzled gaze of the other mercenaries. Before they could ask, the mercenary groaned and the weapon in his hand fell to the ground. covering his neck with both hands. His eyes were wide open and filled with fear. Blood suddenly flowed down from his neck and dyed his hands red. He looked at his companions around him and opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't make a sound. Then he slowly fell to the ground and stopped breathing. He was the mercenary who was talking to Tai Li just now. Before the surrounding mercenaries could cry out in shock, a blood-curdling scream rang out. One of the mercenaries stared in disbelief at the blade that had pierced through his chest, but there wasn't a single drop of blood on it. He closed his eyes in horror. Pulling out the blade, Wu Yin retreated to avoid the spurt of blood. Then, he sped up to the side of another mercenary. Under his desperate gaze, Wu Yin slashed down again. The blade of death began to dance. In an instant, the Tier 3 mercenaries didn't even get to see the face of the culprit who killed them. They only saw the silver blade, but it was the last thing they saw in their lives. Then, they went to Sanatagawa to report to the girl with the scythe. When the three of them fell to the ground and Wu Yin appeared in front of them, the mercenaries finally understood what happened. Wu Yin lightly moved his feet, causing the surrounding mercenaries to take a few steps back in fear. They raised their weapons at Wu Yin, but no one dared to rush forward. Tai Li retracted his gaze from Mikoto and Chuju and looked at Wu Yin and the mercenaries. Glancing at the three mercenaries on the ground, Tai Li didn't feel sad or angry. Instead, he immediately shouted at the other mercenaries, "What are you doing? Hurry up and attack. Kill him for me." The mercenaries looked at each other and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Under the threatening gaze of their vice leader, they braced themselves and shouted as they waved their weapons at Wu Yin. Wu Yin saw that Tai Li didn't intend to take the little lowly Liren as a hostage and couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. If Tai Li wanted to use Liren as a hostage to threaten him, then he wouldn't be able to do anything, unless Mikoto used her level advantage to take Liren back from him, but that would be too risky. It would be best if that wasn't the case. The mercenaries' weapons were about to reach him. Wu Yin smiled faintly and waved the Yamano Shana in his hand. After a few crisp sounds, the weapons in the mercenaries' hands all broke into two and fell to the ground, turning into a pile of scrap metal. "Mass armament!" Tai Li exclaimed, then looked at the Yamano Shana in Wu Yin's hand, his eyes filled with greed. To be able to so easily cut the mercenaries' weapons in half, only the legendary armament could have such power. Although Tai Li was already at the 5th rank, he still didn't have a mass armament. He had always been holding a decent greatsword. He had already started to gather money to get himself a mass armament. Now, he didn't need to plan for it himself. Someone had already delivered it to him. In Tai Li's eyes, this armament had already been branded with his name. In just a short while, this common armament would be his. "What are you guys waiting for?" Tai Li roared at the mercenaries surrounding Wu Yin, then continued to look at the Yamano Shana in Wu Yin's hand with his disgusted eyes. Beauties and whatnot. He could have as many as he wanted. As long as he had strength, he wouldn't have to worry about not having beauties. The armament was something that could increase his strength. What's more, now that the armament was here, and so were the beauties, Tai Li felt that today was his lucky day. As long as he got rid of that man, everything would be in his pocket. With his strength at the 5th rank, how could these young guys who looked like they hadn't even reached adulthood be his opponent? Therefore, Tai Li was full of confidence at this time. The only thing missing was the words, "I want it," written on his face. Tai Li's eyes had been blinded by greed. How could he not think that someone who could have a mass armament would be an ordinary person? Indeed, Wu Yin, Mikoto, and Chuju all looked very young. Although Wu Yin was already 20 years old, his mischievous smile would only make people think that he was a young boy. What's more, in Tai Li's eyes, 20 years old was the age to drink milk. At this age, other than the geniuses of the big families, who else could have a little strength? As for Mikoto and Chuju, needless to say, with their petite bodies and childish faces, they were still underage. However, Tai Li miscalculated this time. Age wasn't a distance, and height wasn't a problem. Other than Chuju, there was no way he could beat a man and two women who were jumping around in front of him. If Chuju drank the bottle of resplendent breath, he wouldn't be able to beat them either. 3 hours was enough to pester him to death. Wu Yin naturally heard Tai Li's flirtatious mass armament. He couldn't help but sneer. Mass armament? That level of armament has already been eliminated by me. The Nyamano Shana is a rare armament. I also have a mass armament. It's in my interspatial ring. Unfortunately, no one wants to use it. Wu Yin didn't waste any more words. With a sway of his body, he rushed towards the side mercenaries. The Nyamano Shana in his hand drew a delicate and beautiful arc. Every time he drew a line, a pool of blood would splatter. And every time this happened, a mercenary would fall. Wu Yin shuttled through the mercenaries at an incredible speed. The mercenaries only saw a blur in front of their eyes before they fell to the ground with blood splattering from their bodies. The sound of the mercenaries falling to the ground and the sound of the Nyamano Shana penetrating their bodies formed a rhythm. It was like an accent and a soft note. A soft note would be followed by an accent. Only 30 seconds had passed. 30 seconds later, all the mercenaries were lying on the ground, unable to stand up again. Ding! Quest 2 completed. Obtained 7,000 equipment points, item points, ability points, and summoning points. 20 tier, 3 mercenaries all fell to the ground dead. Wu Yan's Quest 2 was also completed. Their deaths brought Wu Yan's income. It had to be said that this was a bit ironic. Wu Yan glanced at the mercenaries on the ground, then looked disdainfully at Tai Li's stiff face. He flung the Nyamano Shana that was dripping with blood. The blood on the blade was easily flung away, and the Nyamano Shana's blade regained its shine. Wu Yan carried the Nyamano Shana and walked in front of Tai Li. Looking at the gloomy Tai Li and the little lowly Liren struggling under his armpit, Wu Yan pointed the Nyamano Shana at Tai Li and shouted, "Hey, put down the lowly in your hand." Chapter 54. Hey, put down the lowly in your hand. That soul-stirring shout left a series of echoes in this crossbow situation. It made the dog beating paused, the confrontation embarrassed, and the hostage stunned. The only thing missing was a few crows flying over and shouting idiot. Even if Wu Yan was a super thick-skinned person, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. The consequence of excessive pranking was that it attracted the disdainful gazes of the two girls and the disbelieving gaze of the little lowly Liren. Perhaps they were already thinking that they were about to escape from the tiger's mouth and enter the wolf's den. Or perhaps Wu Yan's words really made some people unable to continue watching. Therefore, their battle strength instantly exploded and turned the group of bald dogs into dead dogs. Ding! Mission 1 completed. Obtained 3,000 equipment points, item points, ability points, summoning points. When this system notification sounded, a brown figure and a pink figure instantly appeared beside Wu Yan. They extended their fists and very tacitly smashed Wu Yan's head at the same time, making Wu Yan lie on the ground. Chuju retracted her hand and took a deep breath. She looked at Tai Li and Liren, who were a little stunned, and said, "Just now, the method of opening was wrong. Please ignore it and return to the show. Put down the little girl in your hand." Hearing Chuju's words, Liren regained her senses and began a new round of struggle. Tai Li's face was a little ugly. He felt like he was being played. Tai Li snorted coldly and tightened his grip on Liren. His rat-like eyes swept back and forth between Chuju and Mikoto. After a while, he smiled and said, "Sure, as long as you obey me, I'll let her go." Tai Li's sure startled the two girls, who only wanted to say some polite words and secretly prepared for battle. After hearing Tai Li's words, the two girls' eyes were suddenly filled with murderous intent and looked at Tai Li with anger. She activated her superpower. Mikoto's eyes narrowed dangerously. This was a sign that she was going to use violence. She was already thinking about how many volts of electricity she should release to turn him into a frog that flops around on two legs. Lightning Element Magician. Tai Li looked at Mikoto in surprise and then excitedly licked his lips. Magicians were very rare. He didn't expect this little girl to be a magician. This made Tai Li, who had indulged countless women, excited. In the past, among the women he had slept with, there were not many warriors, let alone magicians. Now that he could have a taste of a magician, Tai Li's heart instantly heated up. After playing with her, he could raise her and train her to be his right-hand man in the future. There is nothing more honorable than taking a beautiful magician out. Thinking of this, Tai Li wanted the two girls in front of him even more. A fervent expression appeared on his face. Of course, the concept of those who can afford to be a magician must have a certain background and strength has already been thrown to the back of his mind. Arrogance and greed can really make a person unable to open his eyes. Not only Mikoto, but even Chuju was disgusted by Tai Li's disgusting expression. Pointing her white cherry at Tai Li, Chuju coldly said, "Looks like if we don't teach you a lesson, you really won't listen to our words. Ha! You better think carefully before deciding what to do." Tai Li raised Liren in front of him and proudly smiled at Mikoto and Chuju. "Don't think that you can beat me just because you got rid of a bunch of trash. Putting aside the fact that I'm a 5th-rank warrior, the current situation is very advantageous for me." "You bastard." Mikoto angrily looked at Tai Li and angrily said, "Not only did you use a little girl as a threat, you also called your companions trash." "Humph, calling them trash is thinking too highly of them." Tai Li laughed out loud and said, "You can't even deal with a few little kids. Keeping them alive is just a waste of time. Even if you don't deal with them, I will eliminate all of them in the future. Trash has no value to exist." "Bastard." Mikoto and Chuju were thoroughly enraged. They couldn't wait to tear Tai Li into pieces while he was laughing, but Liren was helplessly struggling in his hands, so they didn't dare to act rashly. "Ha ha ha!" Tai Li proudly laughed. "What? Not talking anymore? I already said it's okay. As long as you follow me, I will guarantee that this little girl will be fine." "Is that so? Then I really have to thank you." "You're welcome." Tai Li suddenly froze. A sense of danger burst out from his heart. When this feeling appeared, a silver-white blade suddenly appeared in front of him and pierced towards his forehead. The blade in front of him emitted a cold aura like that of a viper. Tai Li's pupils instantly shrank to the size of a needle, and an aghast expression appeared on his face. At this moment of crisis, Tai Li roared and mobilized all of his Do Chi. He didn't care about the pain from the rapid flow of Do Chi in his body, and used all of his strength to turn his head to the side. At this critical moment, he just happened to dodge this fatal attack. The blade brushed past his ear, and he could even feel the cold temperature of the blade. Cold sweat involuntarily slid down his forehead. He never felt that death was so close to him. Tai Li's legs began to tremble slightly. After the attack failed, the silver-white blade stopped moving and stopped beside Tai Li's ear. At the same time, a hand that was completely different from the cold temperature of the blade was placed on Tai Li's hand, and Tai Li's hand was holding Liren. Beep! Blue and white electric current flashed from this hand to Tai Li's hand, and the electric current passed through Tai Li's body. Tai Li cried out in pain, and his whole body was paralyzed. His hand trembled, and he loosened his grip on Liren. Another lightning magician. Impossible. Isn't he a sword user? Isn't he a warrior? How can Do Chi and magic exist in a human body at the same time? Tai Li couldn't believe it in his heart. Naturally, he didn't know that Wu Yin didn't have any Do Chi or magic at all. His sword skills relied on his body, and his lightning relied on his calculation ability. The owner of the hand grabbed Liren, who was in free fall, and pulled her into his arms. He looked at Tai Li with a smile, but his eyes were filled with coldness. The hand holding the sword fiercely slapped Tai Li back, and he flew into a tree. Yin, Mikoto, and Chuju ran over as if they expected this. They didn't say anything and took the little lowly Liren from Wu Yan's hand. They put her on the ground and untied her while looking at Wu Yan with vigilance. Wu Yan laughed dryly, but he didn't say anything. It seems that the declaration of lowly just now really pissed them off. Wah! The soft cloth in her mouth was removed by Chuju, and the little lowly Liren pounced into Chuju's arms. She cried like she was wronged. Don't cry, don't cry. Chuju and Mikoto hurriedly comforted the little lowly. Maybe it was because the two girls gave Liren a different feeling, so Liren was relieved and ignored Tai Li, who got up from the ground. Her crying made Chuju and Mikoto's heart ache, but it also made Wu Yan's head hurt. Wu Yan was most afraid of girls crying, especially cute girls. Damn it, little bastard. Ty Lee got up with an ashen face and looked at Wu Yan's group with a ferocious expression. He spat out a mouthful of saliva and grinned. You think you can win by ambushing me when I was careless? That's fine. I'll let you see the power of a Tier 5 warrior, you puny ant. The question of why Wu Yan can use both battle skills and magic at the same time has already been tossed aside by the furious Ty Lee. What's more, Ty Lee didn't even put Wu Yan in his eyes. In his opinion, Wu Yan is still young. Even if he's a magician, there's no way he can be stronger than Ty Lee. He only relied on the advantage of a sneak attack to embarrass Ty Lee. Therefore, Ty Lee, who thought he was strong, couldn't help but be angry. You're just an ant. How dare you stain my clothes with dust? As for the matter of Liren being taken back, Ty Lee didn't care. As long as he killed that little bastard and took her back, it would be fine. Together with those two girls, while Ty Lee's self-confidence broke through the sky, Wu Yan, Mikoto, and Chuju were speechless. The power of a Tier 5 warrior? Sorry, but there's a Tier 6 and a Tier 7 warrior here. Oni-chan. A soft voice came from the tear-stained Liren, making Wu Yan's expression change. He almost knelt down and took out his lollipop. Liren pursed her lips, making people want to take everything in the world back to her. She lifted her head from Chuju's embrace and looked at Wu Yan, sobbing. Oni-chan, this person is very strong. Even the guards are defeated by him. We should run away quickly. Even though the little lowly Liren was still young, she still had the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, good and evil. The person who kidnapped her was undoubtedly a bad guy, and her brothers and sisters who came to save her were the good guys. If she didn't think like this, she wouldn't be hiding in Hinajiku's embrace like a baby bird. At the same time, after seeing Ty Lee's strength, Liren is naturally worried that the big brothers and sisters who came to save her will die in Ty Lee's hands like her guards. Wu Yan doesn't have the ability to read minds, so naturally he didn't know what Liren is thinking. If he knew, Wu Yan would definitely grab her collar and yell at her without caring about anything else. This brother is not a good person. Don't just give people a card. However, he could hear the worry in the little lowly Liren's voice. Thus, he gave her a comforting smile and waved the Nyetan Shana in his hand. Looking at the self-righteous Ty Lee, the corner of his mouth twitched. Don't worry, little girl. This self-righteous fat pig thinks that he's a powerhouse just because he's wearing armor. I'll slowly teach him the consequences of having designs on other people's women. Not for anything else, even if it wasn't for the mission and not for my hatred for this pig, but for your sweet Oni-chan, I will help you kill this fat pig that makes you cry today. What did you say? Ty Lee was taken aback. When he heard Wu Yan's words, more anger surged from his heart. He glared at Wu Yan, and with a roar, he released all of his do-chi. Unfortunately, his self-made performance was ignored by the people present. Wu Yan's words made Ty Lee excited, but it also made Mikoto and Chuju put a thick layer of pink on their faces. The two girls looked at Wu Yan and stuttered. Who is your woman? Of course, Wu Yan has automatically set the arrogance in his heart as a tacit agreement. He wasn't afraid of the chopper at all. Ha ha ha! Ty Lee suddenly laughed out loud. He laughed so hard that tears almost flowed out. But in the end, he didn't because there were no tears in his eyes. There was only monstrous anger and killing intent. Little bastard, since you are in a hurry to die, I will fulfill your wish. I will gladly take your woman and armament. Ha ha ha. Chapter 55. His whole body surged with do-chi. Ty Lee pulled out the greatsword at his waist and swung it up high. With a force that could split Mount Hua, he rushed towards Wu Yan. Take care of yourself, and take care of that little girl. Wu Yan casually waved his hand and looked at Ty Lee, who was charging towards him like a bull with contempt. In the past, it was always others who used their level to suppress him. This time, it was finally his turn. Chuju and Mikoto took the little lowly and retreated. Ty Lee not only ignored them, he even smiled happily. Fortunately, They knew how to appreciate favors and knew how to escape. Otherwise, if this uncle's strength was too strong and accidentally affected them, that would be bad. It's fine if they were injured, but if they were killed, it would be a waste. I haven't enjoyed it yet. Tylee laughed and raised the greatsword in his hand. With a suppressive wind whistling sound, he slashed towards Wu Yin. Not far away, Mikoto and Chuju, who were watching the battle, unblinkingly looked at Wu Yin. The little lowly Liren worriedly raised her head and said to Chuju and Mikoto, "Sister, is it okay if we don't help Big Brother? That big guy is very strong. He killed all of Liren's guards." Liren's face turned pale when she thought of the miserable state her guards were killed. She trembled in fear and squeezed into Chuju's embrace. Her eyes started to turn red again. Hinajiku reached out her hand and rubbed Liren's long blonde hair. Her eyes are still on Wu Yin. Hearing Liren's words, she lovingly replied, "It's okay. Oni Ai-chan can handle this. Don't be fooled by Oni Ai-chan's frivolous face. He's actually very strong." Very strong. Liren couldn't help but turn her head and look at Wu Yin. She doubtfully said, "Stronger than that big guy?" This time it was Mikoto who spoke. She squatted down and smiled at the little lowly. She gently said, "He's much stronger than that annoying big guy. Is it really that powerful?" Li Lin innocently raised her small face and said in a childish voice, "Then can Big Brother beat that bad guy?" We'll definitely win," Mikoto and Chuju said in unison. There was an indescribable trust in their tone, as if they were the ones fighting. Liren curiously looked at Wu Yin and muttered, "Do your best. Die. Little bastard." Tai Lihu roared and mercilessly swung down the greatsword in his hand. Dochi surrounded the greatsword and blew up Wu Yan's hair. One could see how powerful this strike was. However, Wu Yan did not care about this powerful attack at all. The difference between rank 5 and rank 6 was already relatively high. The difference between rank 5 and rank 6 was not comparable to the difference between rank 2 and rank 3 when Chuju fought the saber-tooth hound. What's more, Chuju was only 1 rank lower than the saber-tooth hound, while Tai Lihu was 10 ranks lower than Wu Yin. A whole rank difference. Thus, Wu Yin lazily raised the Yamano Shana in his hand and collided with the incoming greatsword. With a clang, the greatsword's momentum was stopped by Wu Yin. "Oh, not bad. No wonder you dare to provoke me. Seems like you have some skills." Tai Lihu looked at Wu Yin in surprise and then laughed again. He swung his greatsword and turned it into a windmill. Tai Lihu slashed at Wu Yan's body like a berserker. "Then let's see how many moves you can take from me." Listening to Tai Lihu's arrogant words, Wu Yin only casually waved the Yamano Shana in response to Tai Lihu's storm-like attacks. He blocked every move and every move. He even took the time to sigh. In the past, Wu Yin had seen this kind of self-righteous idiot arrogant in front of the main character more than once in a novel. He didn't expect to meet such a person after transmigrating. Thinking back, when he saw this kind of character showing off in the novel, he was extremely annoyed. He wanted nothing more than to become the main character and ruthlessly trample on this kind of idiot so that they couldn't be arrogant anymore. Now that there was a real opportunity, Wu Yin couldn't bring himself to have such thoughts. This was because this kind of person was too much like a clown. Apart from bringing a bit of fun to him and the others, he was a complete piece of trash. He didn't know that he had become a laughingstock in the eyes of others and was still acting self-righteously in front of him. It made people want to teach him a lesson, but they couldn't even bring themselves to do so. Although this kind of performance polluted the air a bit and was a bit disgusting, under Tai Lihu's powerful attacks, the wind stirred up dust. The power of the greatsword was deflected by Wu Yin and leaked into the ground. For a moment, the place where Wu Yin and Tai Lihu were fighting was filled with dust and gravel. The two people continuously clashed their weapons, causing the surroundings to become a mess. Hit, 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 hit. Damn it. Why can't I hit? Tai Lihu continuously swung his great sword and continuously attacked Wu Yin. In his imagination, he would only need 1 or 2 rounds to chop this little bastard in front of him into meat paste. Then, he would be able to enjoy the beauty in front of him. But let's not talk about 1 or 2 rounds. He's already clashed with Wu Yin for hundreds of rounds. Yet, the little bastard in front of him didn't get chopped into minced meat. Instead, the little bastard leisurely stepped around his sword and waved his seemingly weak blade around to neutralize all of his attacks. Tai Lihu felt that he was going crazy. He had already squandered more than half of his battle chi, but this little bastard in front of him didn't even sweat, let alone battle chi. It was as if he was taking a leisurely stroll, changing his posture under his sword. Tai Lihu's attacks were actually useless. What kind of joke was this? I'm a 5th-step warrior. A 5th-step warrior's attack was actually useless against a little brat. This daddy absolutely doesn't believe it. Tai Lihu crazily roared. His battle chi was increased by a bit, and his attacks were also increased by a bit, causing Wu Yin to finally feel a bit of pressure. Oh, not bad. You finally made me feel a bit of pressure. Once again blocking Tai Lihu's greatsword, Wu Yin finally laughed when he felt a not weak force coming from his own Inai Dianzana. Pulling the Inai Dianzana outwards, Wu Yin pushed Tai Lihu's greatsword away and retreated a few steps. Looking at Tai Lihu, Wu Yin said with a smile, "Obviously, there's only a difference of 1 step in strength. Although the difference is a bit big, if you can't even bring a bit of pressure, then you're really too weak." Hearing Wu Yan's words, Tai Lihu was momentarily stunned. Then, he frowned and said, "So that's how it is. Only 1 step away? So you're a 4th-step warrior, and you were able to survive under the attack just now. It seems that you've reached the peak of the 4th step. No wonder you could kill that group of useless trash." Tai Lihu's words almost made Wu Yin laugh out loud. Calling him a pig was really too appropriate. The words had already been said, and the fight had been fought for so long, yet he could still understand it like this. He was really a godly person, no, a godly pig. Seeing that Wu Yin was speechless, Tai Lihu's brows relaxed. He sneered and said, "To be able to cultivate to the 4th step at your age, and to the peak at that, you can be considered a genius. Unfortunately, the 4th step and the 5th step can't be mentioned in the same breath. The difference between the 2 steps isn't something you can challenge. Even if you're at the peak of the 4th step, as a 5th step, killing you will only take a bit of effort." Wu Yin laughed. He laughed out of happiness. He really couldn't hold it in anymore, so he laughed out loud. Resisting the urge to burst out laughing, Wu Yin nodded seriously. His face twisted as he said, Yes, that's right. The difference between the 2 steps is very big." Wu Yan's strange expression had already been taken by Tai Lihu as fear and a bitter smile. He couldn't control himself under his complicated mood. At that moment, Tai Lihu laughed out loud. There was an indescribable pride in his laughter. He said to Wu Yin, "Now that you know the reality, it's not too late. As long as you obediently surrender and offer those 3 little girls to me, I'll spare your life and let you be my bodyguard." Indeed, Tai Lihu was speaking the truth. He was really moved. That's why he said that. In his opinion, Wu Yan's talent must be pretty good to be able to become a peak of the 4th-step warrior at this age. He could even be compared to some of the children of some big families. In the future, Wu Yin might break through to the 5th step or even the 6th step. If he took him in, when he became a real powerhouse, he could do whatever he wanted. As for the question of loyalty, Tai Lihu didn't consider it at all. In the eyes of this idiot, surrender meant submission, and he would always be under his control. But Tai Lihu didn't know that he had once again touched a landmine. Hearing Tai Lihu's words, "Now that you know the reality, it's not too late. As long as you obediently surrender," Wu Yin still had a smile on his face. But when Tai Lihu said, "Offer those 3 little girls to me," Wu Yan's face instantly turned cold. "Makoto, Chuju!" Wu Yin shouted loudly, startling everyone present. "What's wrong? Do you need help?" Makoto took 2 steps forward and said to Wu Yan, "Makoto, Chuju." Wu Yan's face was gloomy as he said softly, "You two, close your eyes together with that little girl." "Close our eyes?" Chuju, Makoto, and Liren couldn't help but stare blankly. "Why do we have to close our eyes?" because what's going to happen next is a bit inappropriate for children. Wu Yan's words entered the ears of the two girls. They immediately understood Wu Yan's meaning and quickly hugged each other and closed their eyes. Incidentally, they also blocked Liren's curious gaze. Turning into a line, Wu Yan disappeared and appeared in front of Tai Lihu. His cold eyes stared at Tai Lihu's stiff smile. Wu Yan coldly smiled. You actually dare to have ideas about Mikoto and Chuju. I have to say, pinching the hilt of his sword, Wu Yan said to Tai Lihu, you really don't know what's good for you. After saying that, Wu Yan led Shauna from bottom to top and cut off Tai Lihu's sword along with his hand in the blink of an eye. There was no pause at all. A large amount of blood sprinkled down from the sky, accompanied by Tai Lihu's painful screams as he tightly clutched his severed hand. Having done this, Wu Yan put away Shauna back into the scabbard and put it back into the interspatial ring. Standing in front of the screaming Tai Lihu, Wu Yan said in a low and powerful voice, you won't die if you don't seek death. Since you're so intent on seeking death, I'll let you die a beautiful death. Lightning flashed and dust flew. Wu Yan's body began to emit lightning. Electricity continuously flowed through Wu Yan's body, creating an incessant electric symphony. Wu Yan suddenly raised his hand. The ground slightly shook along with his movement. A small wave of iron sand slowly surged out from the ground and rolled into a flowing wall around Wu Yan. With another wave of his hand, the iron sand rapidly surged up and stirred in the air. After a while, it formed a large number of iron sand swords. After the iron sand swords formed, Wu Yan shouted and waved. Like an arrow leaving the bow, the iron sand swords violently shot out and stabbed into Tai Lihu, who had yet to react from the pain. They penetrated his body, his limbs, and his head. Blood spilled into the air. Chapter 56. Bang! Following the sound of his body falling to the ground, Tai Li slowly closed his eyes. Perhaps, even in his next life, the scene of countless black swords flying in the air will become a nightmare for him. Ding! Mission 3 completed. Obtained 10,000 equipment points, item points, ability points, and summoning points. Ugh! A wave of painful dizziness spread out from the depths of Wu Yan's mind. Wu Yan painfully held his head. His mouth couldn't help but groan. His eyes were bloodshot. He knelt on one knee on the ground and slowly shook his head. After the dizziness subsided a little, Wu Yan bitterly smiled. This is a phenomenon caused by overusing his superpower. His computing power is insufficient. When he was fighting against the Orochi, Mikoto could use this level of iron sandsword at will. She could use it whenever she wanted, and she could retract it whenever she wanted. This made Wu Yan subconsciously think that it would be easy to do this. Facts have proven that there are differences between people. You can't do what others can do. At least, you can't do it now. Mikoto can use her superpower freely, but when it comes to him, he has to bear with some side effects after using it just once. It's really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Actually, this is normal. After all, Mikoto's superpower level is already LV5, and Wu Yan is only LV4. Forcefully using a LV5 superpower, how could it be easy? If it wasn't for the fact that Wu Yan is a master swordsman, his body is strong, and his mind is strong, he might have collapsed to the ground from the headache before he could even use his superpower. In the superpower list, an LV5 superpower is 10 times more expensive than an LV4 superpower. From this, it can be seen how big the gap between the two levels is. Why is there no sound? Tai Li's death and Wu Yan's headache caused the scene to fall into silence. After the chi-chi sound, there was no more sound in their ears. They also didn't hear Wu Yan's voice, which made Chuju a little confused. Hey Yan, what happened? Why don't you say something? It's been a while, but there's still no sound. This made Mikoto a bit anxious, but without Wu Yan's order, they couldn't open their eyes. After all, Wu Yan did say that what's going to happen next is a bit unsuitable for children. This made Hinajiku and Mikoto a bit scared. Although the two prideful girls don't want to be defeated by a gory scene, they are still girls. Wu Yin's tone sounded a bit creepy, so they didn't dare to open their eyes. Wu Yin was speechless at Makoto's words. He struggled to stand up. Wu Yin said helplessly, "What do you mean, squeak? Only rats would squeak like that." Makoto and Chuju let out a sigh of relief. Hearing the sound meant that everything was fine. Makoto was even more dissatisfied. "What? Since you've dealt with it, why didn't you say anything? Are you pretending?" "What?" Sure enough, Sis Cannon was a proud girl. She was obviously worried, but she insisted on saying something nice. Would it kill her to say something nice? "Then are you done or not?" Chuju was a little dissatisfied. Being afraid was one thing. Being curious was another. This feeling of waiting for a surprise made the president's heart itch. Soon, Wu Yin said perfunctorily. He controlled the iron sand and threw Tai Li's body, which was riddled with holes, into the trees not far away. A human body couldn't be used to exchange points with the system, so Wu Yin didn't turn the body over to the system. However, Wu Yin didn't feel regretful. In fact, he felt a little comfortable. If the system wanted a human body, then Wu Yin would feel a little uncomfortable. This was a matter of principle. Wu Yin didn't even care about the other mercenaries' bodies. The two girls had already seen it. This kind of scene was still acceptable to Chuju and Makoto. Unlike Tai Li, who was stuck like a hedgehog with his intestines and brain juices flowing out. It was a little disgusting. Of course, accepting it was one thing. If they had to do it themselves, they would probably, well, they were 14 or 15 years old girls after all. Long live understanding. Done. As soon as Wu Yin shouted, the two girls couldn't wait to open their eyes. It was as if they were afraid of being taken advantage of. This made Wu Yin speechless. When she saw the blood vessels in Wu Yin's eyes, Chuju was shocked. She quickly asked, "Why are your eyes so red?" Makoto was also stunned for a moment. Then, as if she remembered something, she directly said, "Did you use your superpower too much?" Looking at Makoto's fixated eyes, he laughed sheepishly. "Just a little. Do you want to become an idiot?" Makoto raised her voice. She was a little angry as she shouted at Wu Yin. "Are you an idiot? Didn't I tell you that if you use your superpower too much, it will lead to insufficient computing power? If it's serious, it will burn your brain." "Burn your brain?" Chuju looked at Wu Yin in shock. Then, her eyes gradually became dangerous. "How would I know?" Under the two girls' urgent gaze, Wu Yin retreated a little. He said in a low voice, "When Makoto used it before, it was very easy. I'm already LV5. You're LV4. How can you compare?" Hearing Wu Yin's retort, Makoto was so angry that her teeth itched. She wanted to rush up and bite him to let him know the pain. Okay, there won't be a next time. Moreover, once is enough." Indeed, such an overpowered skill. To be able to use it once is no regret. The scene of hundreds of black swords piercing through the air can only be described as overpowered. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't recognize the familiarity of the scene, Wu Yin might have added the word bastard when he threw out the iron sand swords. An N. It's as domineering as Golden Sparkle. It's just that Golden Sparkle used a variety of noble phantoms, while Wu Yin used a single black iron sword. If he had to do it again, Wu Yin would still choose to use it once. Well, it's a bit of a suicide mission, but since he's already used it, Wu Yin doesn't plan to use it again before he reaches LV5. After all, the value of a player's life is even higher. Although Wu Yin already said that there won't be a next time, Makoto and Chuju didn't seem to have any intention of letting him go. So Wu Yin quickly changed the topic. "All right, after this battle, Chuju, your level should have increased a lot, right?" Wu Yin looked at Chuju and said. Before the battle, Chuju was LV19. After killing 19 rank 3 saber-tooth hounds, 20 rank 3 mercenaries, and a rank 5 mercenary vice leader, Chuju's level should have increased a lot. After all, her level is still low. Leveling up should be easier. Chuju heard this and couldn't help but look at her own level. When she saw her level, Chuju was stunned for a moment. Then she laughed excitedly. "And it increased a lot. I'm LV35 now." "LV35, huh? Not bad, or else all those monsters would have been for nothing." Mikoto said as she clasped her hands and said. Wu Yin nodded. 39 rank 3 and 1 rank 5. Chuju was still a rank 2 at the time, and the experience gain was quite a lot. Character: Wu Yin abilities, sword mastery, cooking mastery, complete memory, chaotic return to horizon dance, electromaster, LV4. Equipment: Shana of the Golden Temple, C rank, dragon armor, C rank, summons. Misaka Mikoto, Guei Chuju equipment points, 21,000 item points, 817000 ability points, 101000 summoning points, 26,000 level, 50 character, Misaka Mikoto ability, Electromancer, LV5, strength, C endurance, C agility, B spirit, A equipment, none level, 69, character, Guei Chuju ability, none strength, C endurance, D agility, C spirit, C equipment, White Cherry, D rank, level 35. After closing the system list, Wu Yin smiled with satisfaction. Right now, their party had a rank 4, a rank 6, and a rank 7. With this kind of strength, it would be a fool's dream to say that they could do whatever they wanted in the Spalier world. However, it was enough for them to take a stroll around the area. Chuju was already level 35. There was no need for her to level up in the Behemoth Forest. She wouldn't be able to gain much experience either, unless Wu Yin and the rest wanted to go deeper into the forest. However, who knew how strong the monsters in the depths of the Behemoth Forest were? If a level 80 monster managed to sneak out, it wouldn't be Wu Yin and the rest who killed it. It would be the monsters that killed them. Liren, who had been silent since the beginning of Wu Yin and the rest conversation, finally raised her head. She looked at Wu Yin and the rest with her jewel-like eyes. She asked curiously, "What's a level? What's a level up?" The loli's voice brought the three back to their senses. They looked at each other in confusion because they had forgotten about this loli just now. Hinajiku awkwardly turned her head away. It's understandable that Wu Yin and Mikoto forgot about Liren, but not Hinajiku. Liren is the little loli. She's always in her arms. It's nothing, little girl. You heard wrong. Wu Yin laughed as he tried to bluff his way out of this. Let's see if the loli has a natural attribute or not. They absolutely couldn't let other people know about the system. Otherwise, not to mention whether or not the system would attract explorers, even if they used their identity as transmigrators, they would still be dragged away for dissection. Is that so? Fortunately, Wu Yan's gamble was half right. Although Liren didn't have a natural attribute, she was still a little confused and naive. Therefore, Liren still chose to believe Wu Yan's words, even though her head was full of question marks. All right, little girl, how did you get kidnapped by those bastards? Hinajika patted Liren's back and doubtfully said. She was starting to realize that Liren wasn't an ordinary person. Ordinary people don't have guards, and Liren said that her guard was killed by Ty Lee. Liren's cheeks puffed up when Chuja mentioned it. She said a little angrily, Liren doesn't know. Liren just came out for a stroll, and that bastard tied me up. He even killed my guard and brought me here. There's no bed, no food. Liren is so pitiful. Liren used her little loli's voice and puffed-up expression to explain what she understood to Wu Yan's group. Wu Yan didn't know how Chuju and Mikoto felt, but Wu Yan had a thought that he couldn't help but shout out. Too cute. Of course, he could only shout it in his heart. If he really shouted it out, Wu Yan would definitely be hit with a hatchet and an electric shock. Then do you know where your home is? Mikoto leaned over and asked Liren. She was still very gentle towards children. In. Liren nodded her little head and shouted. Liren knows the way home. Good girl. She already knows the way with just this little bit. She's not like me when I transmigrated. Forget it, don't mention it. It's a shame. Yin, what should we do? Chuju said to Wu Yan. But from her yellow-green eyes, Wu Yan could clearly see that she has made a decision. Looking at Mikoto, who had the same expression, Wu Yan was speechless and shrugged. Didn't you guys already make a decision? Why are you asking me? If that's the case, Mikoto stood in front of everyone and pointed in a direction in high spirits. Let's go. Send the little girl home. Looking at Mikoto's actions, Wu Yan really wanted to ask, are you sure it's that way? Chapter 57. He sounded high-spirited when he said, "Set off," but the giant beast forest wasn't a desolate wilderness. There were quite a few unfriendly people living here. Wu Yin, Mikoto, Chuju, and the little lowly Lirin were constantly asking questions. The four of them suffered quite a bit of harassment along the way. Although the harassment was a little low-level, it still brought quite a bit of income for Wu Yin and the others. The low-level demonic beasts can no longer satisfy Wu Yan's needs. Thus, these demonic beasts that came to attack him were all skinned and stripped of their magic cores, turning into raw materials. Wu Yan intended to use them to exchange for gold coins. Money isn't everything, but without money, you can't do anything. Wu Yan did get quite a bit of bounty from his mercenary missions, but when it comes to money, the more the merrier, isn't it? Plus, with the mana crystals from the 20 saber-tooth hounds, they wouldn't have to worry about travel expenses if they sold all of them. As for the saber-tooth hounds' corpses, they were disgusting things. Whoever liked them could have them. Wu Yin and the others were only wandering around the outskirts of the behemoth forest and in the area where Wu Yin had leveled up. Even if Wu Yin had a bit of a bad sense of direction, after 2 months of living as a mercenary, he was familiar with this part of the forest. It only took 4 to 5 hours for the four of them to leave the giant beast forest and arrive at the supply town. If there's a familiar face in the supply town, then in his eyes, Wu Yin has only been gone for 3 to 4 days. What they don't know is that Wu Yin hasn't come to the supply town for more than a month, and that's because he spent his time in this world. The busy streets were completely different from the cool place of the behemoth forest. There was a lot more life, and it made people feel a lot more comfortable. This could be seen from the laughter of Chuju and the other 2 girls. Although this was a different world, and there were things like dochi and magic, the clothing of Sparrow wasn't much different from the clothing of the 21st century. There were short sleeves, shirts, skirts, and jackets. Although there were slight differences, it wasn't to the extent that they couldn't blend in. And so, Wu Yin and the others were still wearing their original clothes. Walking on the streets, they didn't look out of place. Of course, there were still some surprised gazes that would look at Wu Yin and the others. Although they said they were looking at Wu Yan's group, they were mostly looking at Chuju and the other 2 girls. After all, the 3 girls were beautiful and cute and naturally attracted a lot of attention. Wu Yin, on the other hand, only attracted some envious and jealous gazes. Chuju, Mikoto, and Lirin didn't care about the gazes of onlookers at all. They were still leisurely doing their own things and walking their own paths. Of course, this was only natural. Among them, one of them was the president of the White Emperor Academy's student council and was extremely popular, while the other was only one of the 7 LV5 players out of the 2. 3 million people in Academy City. This kind of gaze was something that happened every day in their lives, so they had gotten used to it over time. As for the little lowly Lirin, she was completely heartless, treating the onlookers like cabbages. Only Wu Yin is walking behind the 3 girls with a calm expression. However, if you look closely, you'll notice that his eyebrows would twitch from time to time, a clear indication of his uneasiness. It's true that Wu Yan's skin is thick, but he's still a bit afraid of the people around him who seem to be from the FFF group. After all, he's already enjoying the treatment of a winner in life, 1 man and 3 women. Under these gazes, Wu Yan's group of 4 arrived at a relatively large store. Of course, they came here to sell magic crystals and monster body materials. The items here are relatively complete. Whether it's weapons, equipment, magic crystals, or ingredients, you can find them all here. Of course, they're relatively low level. Basically, all magic crystals and monster body materials under level 20 are available. Level 31s are rare, and armaments are impossible to find. This is the first time I've seen a store that sells such strange things. Mikoto looked at the row of glass windows next to her. Some of the demons were lying inside. After looking around, Mikoto said this sentence. "Is it strange?" Lirin bit her finger. Her other hand was still holding Hinagika's hand. She looked at Mikoto and tilted her head to express her confusion. Shops selling magic beast body materials and magic crystal herbs could be said to be the most common in this world. Almost every city would have one, and there were quite a few of them. Even a little lowly Liren had come out more than once to visit such shops when she was at home. Why was it strange? Of course, with that little brain of hers, she can't figure it out. Mikoto smiled at her, but didn't say anything. Was she supposed to tell her that selling clothes and jewelry wasn't strange? Chuju, of course, understood what Mikoto meant, but she didn't say anything because she also thought the same. Of course, she also found it strange. Well, after all, the theme here is always related to battle. Wu Yin said as he walked towards the counter. Magic beast body materials can be used to make equipment, weapons, and even armaments. Medicinal ingredients can be used to make all kinds of potions. Magic crystals can be used to make anything. So it's normal to have a shop like this. Mikoto Ne-san, is this your first time in a shop like this? Liren pulled on Mikoto's skirt and asked. Yeah. Mikoto didn't hide it. Her eyes were still looking around. I didn't have many opportunities before. Liren's eyes turned and suddenly lit up. She happily said to Mikoto. Then Mikoto Ne-san, let Liren take you to have a look. She then pulled Mikoto and ran to the side. Wait, Chuju quickly called out. She looked at Wu Yin and followed. It seems that girls are really keen on shopping. Helplessly looking at Chuju and the other two girls running around, Wu Yin walked to the counter. There was a man wearing a suit there. He looked quite smart. Dear customer, how may I help you? Seeing Wu Yin in front of him, the smart man immediately asked with a smile. Wu Yin nodded. I need to sell some magic crystals and magic beast materials. There were customers who came to sell magical crystals and magical beast materials every day, and this wasn't the first time the shrewd man had dealt with such a matter. Hence, he immediately said, Well then, dear customer, please let me take a look at the items you want to sell. Is it here? Wu Yin looked around and slightly frowned. It's not that he's afraid of being seen. It's just that the counter here is a bit small. It's impossible to store all the materials. One must know that some of the magic beast materials Wu Yin wants to sell take up a lot of space. Of course, the smart man thought that Wu Yin was afraid of attracting attention. So he smiled and said, It's this one's fault. Please go to the room inside. Nodding again, Wu Yin turned to Chuju and Mikoto. You two can look around here first. I'll go deal with those magic crystals. Got it. Go. Come back quickly, big brother. Let's go. Wu Yin said to the smart man. The smart man walked out of the counter and called a passing clerk to stand in his place. Then he led Wu Yin into the room inside. After inviting Wu Yin to a chair, the smart man said, Dear customer, I wonder if I can count the items you want to sell? Knocking on the corner of the table, Wu Yin looked around the room and nodded. Well, that's fine. If it's here, it should be able to fit. When the smart man was still wondering what Wu Yin meant, Wu Yin waved his hand. Following Wu Yin's movement, a large pile of magic beast materials appeared out of thin air in the room and piled up all over the floor. This. Looking at the materials all over the floor, the smart man's mouth was wide open. He looked at Wu Yin in shock and said, Spatial item. That's right, the smart man was shocked. The reason for his shock wasn't because of the magic beast materials. Although Wu Yin took out a lot of magic beast materials, their grades weren't very high. In this shop, the smart man had seen a lot of things more precious than Wu Yin's batch of materials. What made the smart man shocked was that this ability to take things out of thin air was clearly an ability that only those very precious spatial items had. The smart man looked at Wu Yin in a daze, which made Wu Yin feel a little funny. After living in this world for 3 months, Wu Yin naturally knew how precious spatial items were. However, that was only for ordinary people. In a spalier world, although spatial items were precious, they weren't very difficult to make. As long as one was proficient in forging, they would generally be able to make spatial items. The reason why spatial items were so precious was actually because they needed the most core material to make them, and that was the spatial gem. The truly precious thing was actually this kind of spatial gem, because the conditions for its birth were too harsh. A material like the spatial gem could only be born in a place where there was no other life in the surroundings. Moreover, As long as there was any life in the place where the spatial gem appeared, even if it was a blade of grass, then the spatial gem would never appear again in that place. In other words, once a spatial gem was found in a place where it was produced and mined, that place would no longer produce spatial gems. And in the Spalier world, how many places were there that were completely devoid of life? Among them, how many places had spatial gems been found? Therefore, this led to the preciousness of spatial items. However, generally, as long as it was a child of a large family, they would have a spatial item. For example, Lulu had a spatial bracelet, and so did Fei Fei. Aside from the children of the big families, only 7th grade warriors and mages might have a spatial tool. Of course, it was only a possibility. Who knows how big the spatial tool was? After all, the bigger the space inside the spatial tool, the bigger the space gem needed to store it. And Wu Yin didn't look like a 7th rank warrior or mage. Therefore, the smart man had already regarded Wu Yin as a child of a large family. The smart man's waist had unknowingly lowered a lot until he was a little shorter than Wu Yin. He said respectfully, "Sir, could you give this one some time to check the price of these magical beast materials?" "Do as you wish." Wu Yin took out another bag from his spatial ring and handed it to the smart man, saying, "And these magic crystals too?" "All right, please wait a moment." The smart man took the bag of magic crystals from Wu Yin and bowed to Wu Yin. Then he got busy. Wu Yin sat there calmly, drinking tea. It wasn't that he liked to put on an act. Wu Yin had already guessed what the smart man was thinking before he came. As long as he showed the spatial item, there would be such a change. There was nothing bad about this. At least he wouldn't be cheated. Maybe the price would even rise a little. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.